still back you to win all of the other games anyway. So, if they don't do it, I don't know if they'll never do it if they don't do it this season.
I think it has to be Arsenal, who have a 9-point lead at the moment. Obviously, City have a game in hand. They just...
Life after football. For a lot of players, it means going into punditry. Some turn to coaching or working in the game in other ways. But what about the rest? Some former footballers turn their sights away from the game, and there are a few big surprises. First up, from rainbow flicks to pancake flips. Ex-Chelsea and Southampton defender Ken Monku switched up his footballing career to buy a Dutch pancake house. He bought out the shop, which had been his favourite pancake spot as a child, and before long he was mixing the batter and getting behind the stove. Next, Everton legend Thomas Gravesen swapped out the high stakes of the Premier League for those of the poker room. He made over 150 appearances for the Toffees and won the Scottish Premier League with Celtic. Turned out the Danish international was pretty darn good at poker. He racked up a reported £100 million from his Las Vegas adventures. Remember former Chelsea goalkeeper Petr Cech? Turns out football nets weren't the only goals he was pretty handy in front of. After retirement, he became a goaltender in ice hockey. Same skills, very different surface. And he even won a Division 2 title with Guildford Phoenix. For ex-Liverpool centre-back Daniel Agger, it wasn't just fancy footwork that was in his blood. He was also pretty good with his hands. The Denmark international turned to tattoo artistry after he hung up his boots. He'd qualified as a skin artist while at Anfield, and he then became the co-owner of his own tattoo company as well. It's not all glamour for ex-pros, though. 1966 World Cup winner Ray Wilson set up a very different kind of business. He became an undertaker after he retired. Finally, not many people can say they've won both a World Cup and starred in an Oscar-winning film. In fact, there's only one person in the entire world who can say that. Frank Leboeuf, the former Chelsea defender, was part of the 1998 France squad who won the World Cup. He ended up marking Brazil's Ronaldo in the final and helped his side to a 3-0 win. But Leboeuf had already begun acting on the side while he was playing football, and his biggest role came some years after his retirement when he landed the part of a doctor in the Stephen Hawking biopic The Theory of Everything.
I embrace the career of acting, so I want to learn more. So seeing lots of movies is a part of my job.
To be honest, with all the dramatic diving in the game these days, there's probably tons of ex-pros who've got the acting skills to make it in Hollywood.
Welcome to Kickoff. I'm Natalie Sawyer, and alongside me this Thursday evening, it is former Premier League defender Scott Minto. Coming up in the next 3 hours, we'll be discussing England and the possibility of Phil Foden not making Thomas Tuchel's World Cup squad. And if Foden isn't on the plane, what players have put themselves in contention, and who would you start? Give us your thoughts. Why not? You can WhatsApp us on 03717 223344. You can also text us to 81089. Also, we're asking, is the quality of the Premier League diminishing? Are you bored of watching football? And what does entertainment really mean to you? We'll get Scott's thoughts on the situation at Chelsea, and we'll build up not only to a big weekend of football in the EFL and FA Cup, but a big night of boxing too. It is a busy show with lots to get through. Welcome along to Kickoff on TalkSport. How you doing, Scott?
I'm really good, Nat.
Yeah?
Good to see you.
Good to see
Again, after, what was it? When was it? Saturday?
Yeah. Saturday. And then we've got, well, this is the start of 3.
It is.
3 in a row, eh?
I'm going to be at Coventry. Where are you going to be? Here?
I'm going to be here in the studio.
Right, okay.
We bring you that Coventry against Derby game tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Which is really intriguing. I'm looking forward to that.
Very much so.
And then we're at the Bridge.
We're at the Bridge.
Yes. For Chelsea Port Vale in the Cup. So yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Yes. Well, we will come to Chelsea a little bit later on because at the moment, I think there's a bit of discontent.
Just a tad.
Yeah, just a tad. But we'll come to that a little bit later.
They're not a million miles away. We'll talk about it later.
Oh, look at you looking at the brighter side of things.
They're not. Got to turn every negative into a positive now.
Well, that is true.
Right? And I listen. We will talk about it later, but I don't think I hear people saying they're a million miles away. I don't think they are.
Okay.
But they will need a turnaround of mindset from the hierarchy. We'll see whether that comes or not.
Well, not wanting, and I know we shouldn't be talking about Chelsea right now, but
No.
not wanting to play down Port Vale in any way.
No.
It's a pretty good cup tie for them to get themselves back, a bit of confidence back into the team, maybe.
I had a Port Vale friend of mine who I used to work at Sky with, actually, and he texted me and said, "Oh, it's the dream draw." And I said, "It is for me too."
Yeah, that is a 5:15 kickoff, and that'll be live on TalkSport on
But
Saturday.
we're on air at 3:30.
We are. Yes. Mega fun building up to that one. But we'll come to that. That is on Saturday, and we'll speak about Chelsea a little bit later on as well. But we have to start with England, of course, after this latest international break has come to an end, and a really fruitless international break for England when you consider the draw against Uruguay, the defeat to Japan as well on Tuesday night. Kind of feels, Scott, like this whole squad experiment, if you like, for Thomas Tuchel having the 35-man squad originally, posed more questions than answered, do you think?
Possibly, but I'm not going to speak with hindsight because I actually thought it was a really good idea at the time, and a lot of people did. You know, okay, we're at the really business end of the season for the Premier League club, so let's try and not play the same players in both games. I think it was the right idea. I think it was great for certain players to have an audition. Some had a double audition. And I think what we learned, the biggest question for me is, what did we learn? I think we learned that without our big boys, we're not going to win the World Cup, and we're far away from it. Japan are always going to be a tough game, Nat. But if we are to win the World Cup and we're playing Japan in the World Cup, then we have to win those games. And I thought they played really well. I thought the tactics were spot on. I thought Thomas Tuchel, as I say, learned things almost in a negative way, but he still learned things. He learned what he can't do. And obviously he said at the end after the match how important Harry Kane is. I do worry for that slot, because if you think about as much of a world-class player, and you have to say one of the greatest players this country's ever produced with his numbers. Without him, we will struggle. I think without Jude Bellingham on top form, we will struggle. But in terms of Harry Kane in particular, he wasn't bang on form in the Euros, and he kept on getting played and played and played. And there was seemingly not that number two. I thought Ollie Watkins came on and did really well. Some players, including Ollie, I think got better by not being involved in this international camp. And I actually would take him. I think you do need a striker number two. What happens if Harry Kane gets injured seriously in the first match? Are we going to continuously play with false nines? So I think you do need a proper striker as a backup. I don't think Dominic Solanke did necessarily badly, but he didn't do enough. Same for Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who could probably say I wasn't given enough time. He had that one chance, and it's amazing how in the space of a second or two can change your fortunes. But you could also argue perhaps he was lucky to get called up in the first place. Had a wonderful season, and great to see him fit. And I think he will help Leeds stay up. But ultimately, I think Ollie Watkins, he's done it before. When he didn't get involved in the squads, he scored against West Ham, and I can see him score another 3 or 4 goals by the end of the season.
So why then do you think he didn't call him up, Ollie Watkins? Why has he tried Dominic Calvert-Lewin? Why has he tried Dominic Solanke, for example, when, for example, Solanke's been injury prone this season, unfortunately, so we've not really seen the best of him. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, thankfully, hasn't had really any injury issues this season for Leeds and has played remarkably well. I think it's into double figures now already for them. So why on earth wouldn't you call up Ollie Watkins as well to try him out once more?
Well, I think it's fair to say that Ollie Watkins hasn't had a good season in the Premier League. I think he's, in terms of numbers of goals and maybe just getting into the right positions, he hasn't been at his best. His conversion of shots to goals hasn't been particularly great. But I think with really good players, I'm not going to call him a world-class player. Obviously he's not, or even a top-class player. But I think he's been there before. He knows what the pressure is like playing for England in a major tournament. He scored a goal in a major tournament in a very, very important moment in that as well. And I think he can be the player of moments. Who would you say you'd rely on more between those three? And despite Ollie Watkins not having a great season, not being called up, I would still go for him. So I think there was an opportunity for Solanke and Calvert-Lewin, albeit a short one, for Calvert-Lewin, but they didn't take it. So for me, it's Ollie Watkins again. You can't go to a World Cup with just one recognised striker. Can't.
And yet, obviously on Tuesday night against Japan, he opted to play Phil Foden as the false number 9. Now, we do have a number of players that can play in that kind of role. We've seen it previously with Anthony Gordon and Jarrod Bowen, for example.
Marcus Rashford.
Yeah. Absolutely. So we have the options there. So, again, I suppose, let's talk about Phil Foden being given that role. He also played against Uruguay as well in a slightly different role, in maybe his more familiar role, should we say, number 10. It seems as though it's unlikely that he's going to get the seat on the plane, do you think?
I think it's such a shame that such a talented player and clearly a good lad is not going to go to the World Cup. But I don't see how he can go. I don't think he's... you're right. He was played in his best position against Uruguay, didn't play particularly well. He was given another chance in a false 9 position because I think Thomas Tuchel was almost like, well, we got these number 10s. You haven't grasped the nettle in that particular position. So can I take you? Can I think of you as perhaps a false 9 as well? I want to give you every chance. And he didn't take it. And I think it's such a shame when you think about the talent, the form that he had 2 seasons ago where he was the Premier League's player of the season, to where he is now. And you look at even in terms of club form, it's not even as if he's doing it for his club and yet he doesn't do it for his country. He's not starting games. And actually, you look at the Real Madrid home and away, he didn't come off the bench either time. And there were attacking players who were brought on, 1, 2, sometimes 3, and he still wasn't brought on. So that tells me that he's in a really bad place at the moment. I think someone needs to get inside his head to see where he is confidence-wise, because he looks a shadow of the player that we know he can be and he has been. But if Pep Guardiola isn't playing him, Thomas Tuchel's given him every chance to do it and he's still not shown what his capability is. Can't keep on waiting for potential. And I think in an England shirt, and I heard Danny Mills saying earlier, and I totally agree with him, you know, there's one way of playing with Manchester City. It's a different way of playing with England, but he's not even playing for Manchester City right now. And I think that says everything.
Well, Simon has just messaged in, so thank you very much for your message, Simon. He says, Phil Foden has to go to the World Cup. He's a big game player who has the ability to turn a game if played as a number 10. He can't be judged on one game as a false centre forward. When
was the last time he played well for England?
Well, his numbers don't stack up, do they, really,
No.
when it comes for England, unfortunately. The thing is, I think most of us would actually love to see your prime kind of Phil Foden. But we haven't seen that for so long. That's the problem.
And his problem is as well, he's probably in the most competitive position of England players in the squad. I mean, how many good number 10s have we got with Jude Bellingham and Cole Palmer, himself as well? You know, there's Morgan Rogers.
Yeah.
You know, you can't be taking all of those. So I think Thomas Tuchel gave him a chance, and I don't think he's done particularly well for England in his whole career. I think he'll look back and wonder why. I think in the Euros, he wasn't on his own, but he didn't play particularly well there either. So I'm not sure he is a big game player at the moment. And you have to go at the moment.
Yeah. Like I say, I think it's a real shame because I think most of us...
It's a massive shame.
Most of us think of a Phil Foden from a few years ago.
We want to think of that.
Yes,
we still want to think of
I
him.
know, and that's what we
and
always
again,
hope
he seems
will
like
come
a
good.
great lad.
Yeah.
And we want good things to happen to good people.
Yeah.
But Thomas Tuchel has to be ruthless. And for me, in terms of form, as much as Cole Palmer didn't play particularly well either against Japan, I thought he did well against Uruguay, and I just feel he's ahead of him in the pecking order.
Well, I think he has to still name a 35-man squad, and that then gets whittled down to 26. So it means, and I'm not sure when that cut-off point is of when that has to be whittled down to 26. I'll have to find that out. But obviously, I think there are the 2 friendlies out in America that England will face when they take on New Zealand and Costa Rica. Presumably, it's after that, maybe, when he makes the cut, maybe?
I think it's before.
Do you think it's before?
I think. We maybe have to get that checked out.
Yes.
But I think he...
But that will be an interesting period.
With the final squad.
Oh, gosh. The thing is, though, if you're on that 35-man squad and then you get cut from it, you're that close. It would be just heartbreaking.
Yeah, I don't know what to say to that.
I just can't
Absolutely,
imagine it. It'd be
but
awful.
but again, this is it. This is England.
I know.
We want to. I'm not saying we will by any stretch of the imagination, but we want to go there with the thoughts of winning the World Cup. Gail Southgate's not in charge anymore because people were claiming that he couldn't get over that final line that Thomas Tuchel can. This is why Thomas Tuchel is the England manager. He's a foreign manager, and a lot of people don't like that. I would prefer an England manager, but I'm quite happy with him in charge because he's a winner. So he's got to be ruthless. And one thing we know about Thomas Tuchel, he is ruthless.
Certainly be that. That is for sure. We're going to continue discussing the England situation, but don't forget, we will obviously talk about Chelsea. We'll talk about the EFL. We'll talk about the FA Cup as well. That's to come in the next few hours here on Kickoff. You're listening to Kickoff on TalkSport with Ladbrokes. It's 18 and over. Gambleaware.org.
Thomas Tuchel's thrown Foden's World Cup hopes into doubt with some comments that he made to the media, Gabby. Here's an interesting one. He was excellent in camp, but he struggles to show it on the pitch. He was so good in training, and I thought he will just surprise us. But yeah, he struggles to have the full impact. It was put to Tuchel that he could not take a struggling player to the World Cup. I can, he replied, but the question would be if we will. It's not a guarantee that he will come. Now, to be fair to Phil Foden, I think there's only about 5 or 6, well, maybe 5 or 6, but there'll be more, about a dozen guarantees.
Yeah.
But there'll be about maybe 6, 7, 8 that aren't guarantees. And I think Phil Foden has now come into that category, Gab. I mean, we've got to be concerned for him, don't you agree?
I think the problem for me, Ali, is that his form for Manchester City has been incredibly bad for Phil Foden. You know, he come on in the 90th minute, Ali, in the cup final against Arsenal. Got 0 minutes in both games against Real Madrid.
I know, mate.
In his last 11 games, Ali, he's only played a total of 183 minutes out of 990 available minutes. 0 goals this year. We're already in April, Ali.
Yeah.
And even for his country, Ali, he's not performed. He's only got 4 goals in 49 England caps. He should be at his peak now at 25. Never done it in an England shirt. And those comments from Thomas Tuchel, I look at them and I say, Thomas Tuchel likes you. He likes the career you've had. He likes you as a player. He's brought you into the squad, even though you didn't deserve to be in it from club form. And you look like, at the moment, it sounds like a training ground player. This is Kickoff on TalkSport. It's Scott Minto, Natalie Sawyer with you until 10. And we've had quite a reaction to the discussion on Phil Foden and whether or not he should be heading to the World Cup with England. We'll get to those messages in a short while, but right now it's time to bring you the latest odds update with Ladbrokes.
Odds update on TalkSport with Ladbrokes. Get a free bet every week of the season and a big boost every day. That's Ladisfaction. Minimum £5 bet. Conditions apply. 18 plus. Gambleaware.org.
Alex Sapati, good evening. How are you?
Yeah,
Alex.
I'm good, both. I'm good. You were talking about the England squad just. I've just had a quick look at the betting.
Go on.
I was thinking it's so interesting. Of the top 32 names, the most likely names to make the squad, only one of them is an out-and-out striker. What you consider an out-and-out striker, that's Harry Kane. That's shocking, isn't it?
Interesting.
We're second favourites to win the whole thing.
Second favourites.
In England.
I mean, yeah. I wonder how other nations would see that, Alex. But look, that is to come in the summer. There's lots more to still be played between now and then. In particular, the Premier League. And we'll just part the title race and talk about the relegation situation, especially now that Roberto De Zerbi is now the Tottenham manager. So has that changed anything when it comes to the odds of Tottenham and staying up?
Not really. I mean, Tottenham 11-8 to go down now. They were 5-4 a couple of weeks ago, so they have drifted slightly. But that was more in response to Igor Tudor being sacked rather than De Zerbi coming in. I mean, Spurs could find themselves in the relegation zone before the next kick of ball. West Ham play Wolves next Friday, and if they win that, which they're odds-on favourites to do, they jump above Spurs, who are then outsiders to beat Sunderland next Sunday. It's going to be a rough few weeks ahead for all of those teams down there. Lots of chopping and changing. But yeah, for now, according to the betting, Spurs are just about safe. You've got Wolves and Burnley as good as down. Then West Ham at even money. Spurs 11-8. Nottingham Forest and Leeds are 5-1 and 6-1, which I think those are two very big prices. Like Spurs are the ones that everyone's going to be watching out for Spurs. But Forest at 5-1 and Leeds at 6-1 to go down might be the value bets for me between now and the end of the season.
Interesting. Big game of the weekend, Alex. West Brom against Wrexham. No, I'm only joking. Big game for you for sure. Let's talk about the FA Cup as well and the outright odds. And I've got down here any shocks this weekend. Surely not at Stamford Bridge.
No, I mean, look, Port Vale are 22-1 to beat Chelsea. The Southampton Port Vale double this weekend is 200-1. The odds suggest it would be a shock, but Liverpool would fancy their chances against a hit and miss City side. They're 3-1 to win that game in 90 minutes, which I think is a pretty good price for Liverpool. Look, things haven't gone great for them in the league, obviously, but there's still a big chance at some silverware on the cards for them, both here and in Europe. The most likely semi-finalists right now, City, Chelsea, Arsenal and West Ham. For all four of those to win, it's just over 5-1. In terms of the outrights right now, it's a little bit skewed just because of that City-Liverpool game. So Arsenal are favourites at 15-8, just under 2-1. City 11-4, Chelsea are 7-2, and Liverpool 6-1. Liverpool 6-1, I think, will be well backed. You are taking a bit of a risk on them getting past City, but if they do get past City, they're going to be nowhere near as big as 6-1.
Okay, we sort of vaguely touched on the Championship there because West Brom will be in action over this busy Easter period. I wonder, are you hopeful that they'll stay up, Alex, just quickly?
Yeah, just about. Although there are far more local games for me in League One, so rough with the smooth.
Okay.
But no, of course, we're favourites to beat Wrexham as well, so we're favourites to win that game. I fancy us there.
Okay, all right. But what about the race for promotion then? We kind of think it's a matter of when, not if, Coventry are going to seal the deal. But there's the question of who's going to go up with them automatically and then who makes the playoffs as well.
Yeah, it's just grim. It's just teasing me here talking about Coventry. 11 points clear. They're 1-20 to win the league, 1-1,000 to go up. Blah 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 blah. Let's assume they're up.
Keep it professional, Alex.
Ipswich have a game in hand, and they can go second, which is why they're just ahead of Middlesbrough in the promotion bet. In Ipswich 4-7, Middlesbrough 8-13. Although it feels like it's not as clear-cut as just those three going up. I checked earlier, just 3 of the last 10 sides that have finished third have gone on to win the Championship playoffs. So you've got the likes of Millwall, Southampton, they're 5-2 apiece. Tale of two seasons for them, very different seasons, but Southampton look like they're peaking at just the right time. You've got Hull 7-1, Wrexham 8-1 to go. Wrexham just keep dropping too many silly points, in my opinion. And then I have to mention, just to make myself feel better, Birmingham, who have just slipped and slid. They were in a great position a few weeks back. They're now 100-1 to go up, Blues. They were 8-1 for context to win the Championship at the start of the season. I thought our traders were having a laugh back in August. As right I was. But there's always next year for Blues. Keep right on, all that jazz. And we'll be up there as well. Sure.
He's such a bad kid, isn't he?
The evil streak that comes out in you, Alex, honestly. Listen, it's been a pleasure as always. Thank you. That was a look at the latest odds with Ladbrokes. It's 18 and over, gambleaware.org.
Odds update on TalkSport with Ladbrokes. Get a free bet every week of the season and a big boost every day. That's Ladisfaction. Minimum £5 bet. Conditions apply. 18 plus gambleaware.org.
So a little bit later on, we're going to talk about the EFL picture and the Championship in particular. But that's a little bit later on. Whilst we have a few minutes, maybe get your thoughts on Zerbi then coming in at Spurs to save the sinking ship, perhaps. What do you make of it?
Well, it's interesting that, the odds haven't changed that much. It's more that Igor Tudor's gone than Zerbi's come in. And look, I think he's a really good manager. I mean, by the way, there's no way he's going to last 5 years. I'm sorry.
I think most would think the same.
No chance.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's that long term, but it doesn't matter. It's all about just staying up this season. I am fascinated to see how he kind of almost holds himself back from doing what he wants to do immediately. We know when he came into Brighton, it took a bit of time for the players to understand exactly how he wanted. And actually, when you're right down there, we've talked about the players lacking in confidence of Spurs, because talent-wise, they shouldn't be anywhere near where they are in the Premier League. But clearly, they're massively lacking in confidence. If they concede that first goal, there's no kind of resilience there. If he tries to get Vicario and the two centre-halves to be playing 1-2s between themselves on the edge of the box, then let me tell you, they will go down. But if he's able to sort of do a hybrid of what he wants to do, but also square pegs, square holes, keep it reasonably simple, especially at the back, then I think he's a really good appointment. It's interesting they refused to get a sort of Tottenham name. So this one has to work. They've had 2 bites of the cherry now. And quite simply, this one has to work. And the contract they've given him is literally, there's a blank page. Tell us what you want. We need you. And now it's down to him to get it sorted. Of course, the players need to take responsibility. But he can't ask too much for them in a defensive point of view, because they've already shown this season, especially this calendar year, that they can't handle the pressure. So just keep things simple. So I'm fascinated to see it goes. Obviously, I want West Ham to stay up. But it would seem wrong, really, for Spurs to go down. But trust me, they are not too good to go down, for sure.
Well, I mean, their first game as well is on Sunday, a week on Sunday, which is a trip to the Stadium of Light to take on Sunderland. And then his next game at home, first game at home, is against Brighton.
Yes.
It's kismet how these things work.
Absolutely. And you know what? They got Chelsea as well, penultimate game of the season as well. So I know what Chelsea fans would want to happen. So there's some tough games in there. We've gone through it with Sam Matterface and Alex Crook on the All Access podcast about where we think Spurs can win, and Crookie doesn't think, he finds it difficult to say where they're going to win at all. And actually, this calendar year, they're the only team in the Premier League yet to win a Premier League match. So I think that Sunderland game is going to be massive. If they can somehow get a win, or even a really good, creditable draw, they can take so much confidence from that. If they don't and they get hammered, the pressure's back on.
Oh, gosh, when you say it like that. I mean, I suppose the good thing for Tottenham is they've got more away games than they have home games, and their home form is appalling. Obviously, the worst of any team in the Premier League. Maybe that's another little chink of, glimmer of hope for them, perhaps. Yeah,
and it just goes to show how wrong the season is, that you're looking for away games rather than home games where the points are.
Yeah.
Now, they can't be thinking like that. That, they haven't got enough games now to say, well, we'll pick up more points away from home. And yes, the pressure is at home, but, De Zerbi, one thing you'd say about him, one, he's a really good coach. I've heard people who have sort of watched his coaching methods, and they're really, really good. But 2, he doesn't lack in self-confidence. So he will believe that he can get Tottenham up. And it was really interesting listening to Adam Lallana, actually, on, I think it was the Breakfast Show a couple of mornings ago, where he was 100% adamant that Spurs will stay up. He couldn't have been more gushing about what he was like as a manager. And when you got someone like him, an England international who has had a fantastic career himself, who completely believes in, and he's been there and was won over when the first 5 minutes of that first meeting that he said, if he can almost hypnotise those players to believe they are as good as they can be, then Spurs will stay up. But will he ask them to play a system and a style of football that they've struggled to already this season?
As you said already, it feels like it has to be basics. That's the basics he has to do first to
Let's
get
see. Sunderland away,
confidently.
if you're playing out from the back and little 1-2s in the box and the centre-halves are dropping off at the Stadium of Light, then you ain't going to get anything out of that game, trust me.
No. Okay. Well, it's in a week's time or so that we look forward to the Premier League returning, and then, of course, we'll see how De Zerbi gets on at Tottenham. We're going to continue to talk about England next as we round up this hour, talking about that, as well, of course, look ahead to a big fight coming your way on the TalkSport network.
All right, Cundy.
Hello, matey.
How are you?
I'm all right, thank you.
How you feeling?
I'm all right. I'm okay, yeah.
Gone well?
Yes, so for those that don't know, the hair transplant last Thursday.
Yep.
A couple of days off.
Yeah.
Back in today.
You're looking well, mate. You look well.
So far.
You look hard.
Well, well, the head's been shaved, right? So there's always got the image, haven't you? Like of a bit of a thug.
Yeah, you look like you're going to be on like Football Factory or something.
Yeah. But look, it went well. It's such a weird process. I mean, you're in the chair for about 8.5 hours. It's all done.
I mean, that's hell for you, right? You can't.
Oh, mate. Well, they gave me. I fell asleep halfway through it. They gave me sedatives. Yes, I struggle to sit still, mate. But
struggle.
I struggle to sit.
Impossible.
Still. Yes, but they're sedatives, mate. They work their magic. But here we go. So the beginning.
Mate, I like it.
Well, we'll see.
It's the new Cundy.
The new version.
The new version of.
New improved. Don't know about that.
It looks all right, mate. I'm happy with it.
Yeah, well, look, big shout out to the Wimpole Clinic. Thank you very much for what they did. And we'll see the results, mate, over the next coming 3, 4, 5, 6 months.
You've got to have a haircut, mate. What's the haircut look? What's the trim? You
Don't know.
Quiff?
Don't know what I'm going to go for, mate.
You look all right with the old skin.
Yes, I'm not having a hair transplant and then looking like this.
No?
I'm not. No, you don't have a hair transplant and shave your head.
It's all right, though.
Well, for the time being, I've got no choice. Yeah. I've got no choice. This is how it's going to be. All right, so there you go.
You're making me die.
Yeah, it's a bit. I mean, did it hurt? Obviously, during the operation, it's very weird, or during the procedure, very weird, mate. There was one at the back, so I had 3 people working on my head at one time, and I couldn't feel it, but I could feel them. It's a bit like when you had the anaesthetic and a dentist. You know, someone's working on doing something, but you can't really feel it.
Who would have thought a sporting event's halftime show could have a bigger impact than the game itself? That seems to be the case with the Super Bowl halftime show. In 2024, Usher brought in an audience of 180 million worldwide, the biggest in the event's history. But how did singing and dancing get to be the centrepiece of America's biggest sporting event? The first Super Bowl was held in 1967. Initially, the halftime show was a display purely for the fans in the stadium, with marching bands, dancers, and American patriotism for all to see. And that's what it was for the first few years. Disney had a go with a few questionable displays in the 1980s, but it wasn't until 93 that we got the first glimpse into the future of halftime shows. Michael Jackson's stellar performance gave NFL execs something to think about. A raft of massive names followed, including Diana Ross, U2, Janet Jackson, who gave us the most famous or infamous wardrobe malfunction of all time. So how many people are involved? To give you an idea of the scale, Rihanna's 2023 performance included 800 people, and experts reckon it cost $13 million. What's even more impressive than some of the names on the bill every year is the fact they do it for free. The artists know the exposure they'll get from doing the show will rocket them up the charts across the world. The Super Bowl halftime show will be a fixture in pop culture for years to come. So the question is, who next?
Welcome along. This is Kickoff on TalkSport, and it's Scott Minto and Natalie Sawyer with you until 10. We're going to be chatting about the EFL a little bit later on, talking of which there are 2 games kicking off this evening to begin this sort of Easter weekend of EFL action. In League 1, Wigan are taking on Leyton Orient, and in League 2, Cambridge are hosting Swindon. We'll do our best to keep you up to date with all of those as well. But we're going to continue our discussion on England, and we were specifically talking about Phil Foden and whether or not he's done enough to get into Thomas Tuchel's final World Cup squad. Scott, you're sort of suggesting you don't think he has, and he's probably going to miss out because of the number 10 options that Thomas Tuchel has. A lot of you have been getting in touch about that, so just to quickly read out a few of those messages. Jeffrey says, I agree, Foden should not be on the plane. He has never shown up for England. He's a waste of time, he says, and if he takes him, we won't make the last 16, sorry. That's from Jeff. James says, can't blame Foden's performances for him potentially not getting called up. The fact that Tuchel played him as a 9 with all the other strikers on the bench was the wrong move. Well, I think we all know that after what happened in the game, of course. And Paul is saying that Phil Foden looked great because he had Kevin De Bruyne next to him, hence why he's not been great for England in every game, and now at City too. Could that be a factor?
Yes, but I think And I think a lot of people would look great alongside Kevin De Bruyne, but not that great. I mean, let's face it, he is a wonderful talent, but we haven't seen it for 2 years now. And I don't know, it was strange, wasn't it? Because he came off the back of that wonderful season, and then in the Euros you're expecting more, and perhaps Gareth Southgate was trying to find ways of getting the best out of Bellingham and Foden, and Palmer wasn't getting involved, and it didn't happen. But sometimes responsibility just comes down to the player. And it just feels like Phil Foden has lost total confidence. And every time he gets the ball, even if he gets half a yard of space, where before he was almost on the half turn and looking to try and go forward, or I think he's one of the best players on the half turn. He's almost the way he turns, in that one movement, suddenly bang, you're going forward. Whereas it was always just going back and playing this simple ball and 1 or 2 touch. And I just feel he's now become one of those players that, a decent player, technical player within a team, but when you really need players to step up and grab the game by the scruff of the neck in the way that a Jude Bellingham can, a Harry Kane can, he's a million miles from me at the moment.
So let's talk about perhaps those that you think are dead certs to go to England.
Okay.
Well, no, by your standards, who you think should be going. Obviously, we know Harry Kane's going. You've already alluded to the fact you think Ollie Watkins should be there as well as the number 2, because really we have to have a second striker, a proper second striker.
Yep.
Is there anyone else out there that you think, maybe not of the obvious ones, but you think they've done enough, even over the last couple of games?
Yeah.
Go on.
There's one guy in particular who.
Oh, okay.
I think I was with Sam and Crookie on the White and Jordan show Friday, and I said, I think he's just. Was it with you? I think he's just come a little bit too late for him.
Go on.
James Garner. And
did well against Uruguay.
He did really well. And before the games, I was thinking, do you know what? Adam Wharton is ahead of him because he's obviously played a little bit more for England. But I feel that James Garner is more a Thomas Tuchel player because he, gets about. He's very good without the ball as well as with the ball, incredibly versatile, helps with the press, can play almost in any position, and he's really good at set pieces. But the way he played in the minutes he played in these recent games, for me, tells me, one, he believes he can be an England international. Sometimes they used to say it takes you almost 10 caps before you really feel a proper international, almost the imposter syndrome. But 2, technically, he can do it. I thought he was excellent, and I think he's jumped above Adam Wharton in my humble opinion. I think he's had a wonderful season, and sometimes there's certain players who he won't start. He won't even be your first, maybe even second or third sub. But I think he'd be a good traveller, I think. And if you need someone to come on in that type of position, if Elliot Anderson gets injured or maybe even a Declan Rice, I think he'd do a great job.
Everton fans are going to love you for saying that because they were very excited that he was called up, weren't they? Absolutely, as they should be. Anybody else then that you think should get a nod?
I think the goalkeepers almost picked themselves. The fact that Ramsdale sort of was sent back, Pickford, Henderson, Trafford. Reece James has to be involved if he's fit. Tino Livramento as well. Mark Guehi, Ezri Konsa. John Stones is one where he just can't keep fit. And he's shown that when he is, like Harry Maguire as well, he doesn't have to be playing the whole season to go into a tournament and he can suddenly be 100% fit. I mean, Harry Maguire's shown that, and I think John Stones is good enough to do it as well. But if he's not fit, then Dan Burn, I think he would definitely be a very good traveller. My 2 left backs, Nico O'Reilly and Lewis Hall. I think Nico O'Reilly will get the nod. I think Lewis Hall is the best left back, best English left back. I think he's got everything.
I like him.
I think defensively that and even before the games against Barcelona, I thought he's had a superb season. And those one-on-ones of Lamine Yamal, let me tell you, I was almost nervous and sitting behind the sofa on his behalf when there was one-on-ones as a former left back myself. I thought he played absolutely sensationally against him, and not just from a defensive point of view, but took him the other way as well. So he would be my left back. Anderson, Henderson.
Okay.
I would definitely have Jordan Henderson. That might be controversial, but I think he's someone we lacked in the last Euros, and almost will bring people together off the pitch, which I think if you're going to be together for 7 weeks is very, very important, and still is can help boss a game. Coming on for 20 minutes or shore up a game if we need to find a way to win. Declan Rice, obviously. I've got 11 forwards, sort of attacking midfielders and forwards.
Yeah, well, I like that.
Palmer, Bellingham, Rodgers, Rashford, Gordon, Saka, Madueke, Bowen, Eza, Kane, Watkins. So Watkins is perhaps the only surprise there, but as I say, I do think we need a second striker. So that's my 26, and I still can't believe it. And I've not got him in there because I don't think he'll get in there as well. But it's still incredible. You talk about the talent of Phil Foden.
Yeah.
Trent. How can he be playing for Real Madrid and not be in the almost 35, let alone 26 for England?
Do you know that? So I've been doing my research on when the World Cup squads have to be finalised. You're right, they have to be finalised by the end of May. So that's before those 2 friendlies in America. But you are allowed to call up to 55 players before that. In this, when that sort of end of season happens and they all meet up and at St George's Park. So technically, I mean, it is pointless. You could call up to 55. 35 might be the number that you'll end up seeing, like we've seen already, which I don't know how long they'll have at St George's Park, but that will be also, and you'd like to think maybe Trent would be given that opportunity, because you would like to see, maybe it comes down to personality being the biggest. You're talking about travellers, and I'm not saying Trent isn't a good traveller, because how would I know? But this could be what it's all about, that mix of personalities, getting them all to just gel. I know a lot of them have done that already, so it's kind of, in that sense, pointless as well, because a lot of them have done it. But maybe that's part of that reconvening at St George's Park.
Now, the reason why I think Trent has got no chance is because Thomas Tuchel, one, said, I know what he can do.
Yeah.
Well, he knows what Harry Kane can do. And
True.
You know, Cole Palmer and Jude Bellingham and just the people that he called up that he knows what they can do. But also the way when Faith, Carruthers, asked initially, have you spoken to him? No. Are you sort of planning on speaking to him? No. Or, it was just very 1-2 word answers where he almost could have just said, you know what, I want my right backs to be really good defensively. Look at Mikel Arteta and his back four. It's almost like Miles Lewis-Skelly, who I thought was and is an incredible talent, and I thought he might have a chance of going on to win 100 caps for England. Well, you can't do that if you can't get into your team. Not only has Calafiori got in front of him, but Nkapie has sometimes got in front of Calafiori. So, if you go down that route of the back four, that's one thing. But I still feel if you're 1-0 down in a knockout game, who do you want? You talk about Kevin De Bruyne. Trent's not a million miles off Kevin De Bruyne. He's the closest person to him in terms of passing. Who would you want to break down a defensive unit? And I think Trent would be right up there. So I think it's a shame. But yeah, I don't think he's having him for whatever reason. I think, look, what I would say is defensively, I don't think he has improved. I did the games against Benfica and I did the games against Manchester City. Certainly one of the games, and I watched the other one. And in the Bernabeu where I was there, Jeremy Doku went past him 2 or 3 times, in fact 3 times in the first 20 minutes. And Fede Valverde came out to help him.
Right.
Then he got better. Then as Real Madrid got more in control and scored the goals, he was better with the one-on-ones. But if he turns around and says, I just don't feel that Trent is good enough defensively, I can't trust him as much as I can the others, I would kind of get that. Would he say that? He's going to have to make that decision sooner or later, isn't he, when that deadline comes?
And it's whether or not he declares that. It just might be, again, he's just not in my squad. Don't need to explain it. It's just his decision. Okay. Do you think someone
might need to explain it when it comes to the actual World Cup squad?
Maybe, if he's asked and he's pushed on it, perhaps so. But then again, I'm sure people are tired of listening to it, but the whole Ben White thing, we still don't know what happened there. And some things are just kept in-house. We don't need to know it. They don't want us to know, even though actually, I say we don't need to know. We do want to know because we want to pry, don't we? We want to know all the secrets. But what about Ben White? Is he anywhere in your thinking?
I think Thomas Tuchel likes him, but my argument was, I've heard people say we don't yet know. We can't not know so therefore you don't yet know, so you can't comment. Well, I'm sorry. The fact that we don't know means that people do comment. We do need to know the truth. And if it's what we think, I heard Adrian Durham last Monday saying that he heard it was Steve Holland giving him everyone some homework to do and he didn't do it and they ended up having an argument. Look, we don't know. But the point is, he didn't walk out on Gareth Southgate and Steve Holland. He walked out on England. I don't have a problem with him coming back now. I don't. I believe in second chance. But I don't think he's actually done enough this season, really, or certainly recently. Yes, he played in the Carabao Cup and the Champions League game, but he's not the number one choice for Arsenal. So I don't really see why he sort of brought up that hornet's nest in the first place. But I do think he's a good player. and I think he can do well. If he does well in the next couple of seasons, he can be in the squad for the Euros.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's done enough this season.
Okay. It's going to be long debated, isn't it? The next few months is who is going to get into that squad up until we know the final 26-man team squad that Thomas Tuchel picks for the World Cup. But that is a few months away. Next, we're going to look ahead to a big fight coming your way on the TalkSport network as Derek Chisora takes on the Bronze Bomber.
What about Mo Salah? With Saudi in mind, is he now the most eligible free agent around?
It's a strange one because Saudi sources sense that MLS are going to make a big push, and MLS sources think he's nailed on to go to Saudi Arabia. And as a free agent, of course, there might be European interest. I'm told that reports linking him with a move to PSG are wide of the mark. They're past that Galacticos era within MLS. A fair few teams have ruled themselves out, such as San Diego, for example, and New York City FC. But there will be franchises in MLS exploring that deal. Some think that Chicago might enter the fray, and others believe that one of the two clubs in Los Angeles will be interested within Saudi Arabia. We know the clubs themselves would love to be able to sign Salah, particularly Al Qadsiya, where Brendan Rodgers is manager, Al Ittihad and Al Hilal. Neom FC could enter the picture as well. But the strange thing I'm hearing in Saudi, Jim, is that the clubs would love him. They've got to be able to finance it. They're reliant on central funding, and central deal makers are still actually debating, is there value in signing Salah at his age and at his wage? Last summer, they would have done it because they were negotiating the TV rights and they thought that they could sign Salah and get a really lucrative deal in Egypt. Now the central deal makers in Saudi are less sure whether he's still going to be the poster boy and have a return on investment. So the clubs are all in on Salah in Saudi, but some senior central figures still, I'm told, need some convincing. This is Kickoff on TalkSport, and it is Scott Minto and Natalie Sawyer with you as we take you through until the sports bar. There are two EFL games that are getting underway this evening. One has kicked off in League One, which sees Wigan taking on Leyton Orient, and that is just a few minutes into that one. With Wigan obviously looking to pull clear of the relegation zone, just 2 points clear they are of the bottom four. And Leyton Orient, well, they are unbeaten in the last five, but they have been involved in the relegation fight. They're now 6 points clear and do have a game in hand on some of the teams around them, but they'll want to put more distance between themselves then and the relegation zone. But no goals as of yet in that one. Cambridge will be taking on Swindon. That one kicks off at 8 at League Two encounter, and both those teams heavily involved in the playoff and automatic promotion spot picture. Okay.
We're going to talk boxing at 8 o'clock, but right now let's just continue our discussion on England, shall we? Because so many of you have been getting in touch with your own options as to who you think should at least be given an opportunity.
I love it. And isn't this what it's all about? 60 million England managers.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, of course.
And we all give our opinion.
And we're all biased in some ways, in some shape or form, at certain times. But
I know you are, because you're going to bring up a name, aren't you?
I didn't put this name forward, may I say. But John Webster, thank you very much for your message. He said, how is Ivan Toney not being given a chance? Trent and Toney are two I would take all day to this year's World Cup.
I think it's such a shame, and I completely get it. The career that Ivan Toney had, sort of coming up from the EFL, you know, not having made the big money, I would have loved him to be in a Chelsea shirt. I really would. But obviously, you know, the money he's gone with the Saudi, and wherever he says it's all about the money. I get it, but he has said pretty much goodbye to his England career, although he was called up by Thomas Tuchel, and then he hasn't off the back of that. So for whatever reason, Thomas Tuchel has given him a chance, and he hasn't passed the test. I don't know why, but...
Well, this is where I think, and again, speculation, like you say, we're all managers, we all have our rumours and speculation.
Spread the gossip, go on.
Well, I just wonder if it's a personality thing at the end of the day, because, you know, he came on for his was it his debut when he scored against Belgium, Ivan Toney, or certainly was very early on in his England career. It was a friendly at Wembley, I was there, that's why I remember it so vividly. But he scored in that game, and then didn't get to go to Qatar, wasn't picked by Gareth Southgate, but he was one of those players that you feel actually, when given an opportunity in an England shirt, kind of, I always thought did pretty well. It was never given that long in terms of minutes, but I thought always kind of did all right in an England shirt.
No. What was the game in the Euros where he was given about a minute?
Yes, I know.
But he still came on and I think it was a flick on, wasn't it? That he helped, and obviously he scored a penalty as well. So one, I think he's got great belief in himself.
Yeah.
He won't be overawed by playing in the World Cup, which I think is really, really important. Two, he's a technically really good player. He's not lightning quick, but he's technically, he can hold the ball up and bring in the likes of a Bellingham, a Morgan Rogers, a Gordon, Rashford, Saka, whoever. And three, if we do get to penalties, and we will, he's pretty good at that as well.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's, again, you know, I don't know if you can say, well, he scored goals over there, so he's ready to play in the World Cup. I'd like to think it's not a personality issue. I'd like to think it's just purely, look, he's gone to a league that's much, much lower.
But you see, that's why I think it had, and again, it's only speculation. I can only assume it's that because he called him up. So he didn't have a problem with playing in Saudi Arabia.
Well, but then he's given him a chance and he's looked at him.
Yeah. This is true. This is true. For one reason or another, he hasn't had a look in since that call-up, like you mentioned, Scott. Another name that has been mentioned is from Smarty, who says, really shocked nobody has mentioned Branthwaite. He's been superb for Everton.
He's been injured, hasn't he?
He has had a bit of an injury problem this season.
Yeah.
But so's Dominic Solanke. Yeah, he's been called up, for example.
Yeah, but I mean, different positions.
Yeah, of course, but...
I think if Jared Branthwaite was fit for this season, he would be in the England squad. I think he's that good.
Mm-hmm.
But he's missed so many games that you can't. I mean, you know, I think it was out of order for Thomas Tuchel sort of alluding to the fact of Harry Maguire being fifth choice.
Yeah.
I think Harry Maguire, I've got nothing but respect for that guy. And
Did you put him in your squad? I can't remember.
Yes.
Yeah, you did.
Yes, I did. I think he's never let England down. And even when he has been injured, he's gone into major tournaments for his country and not only played really well, but quite often been in the team of the tournament. So, but I think Jared Branthwaite, he needed to be fit. I mean, how can you put him in? I don't know how many games he's played this season, but he hasn't played enough. Simple as that. But talent-wise and the fact that he's left-footed as well, absolutely. And again, another one for the Euros.
Did you put Dan Burn? Did I hear you say Dan Burn?
I said Dan Burn if John Stones isn't fit.
Oh, okay. Because Zane is saying, even though they're different positions, how are you putting Dan Burn in but not Trent?
Because we've got enough fullbacks. Right. That's why. So I've gone for 2 right backs, 2 left backs, and 4 centre backs. So I mean, to be fair, you know, Ezri Konsa can play as right back as well. I mean, I could have put Jed Spence in. He can play both sides as well. But I've gone for 2 proper right backs. And to be fair to Livramento, he can play left back, but I prefer a left-footed left back. 2 left backs, 4 centre halves. That's why I've gone for Dan Burn.
Hope that answers your question.
And also, again, going back to Trent, he's one of our most talented players in any position. But I think he hasn't got a chance. Thomas Tuchel has given.
It feels like it. And like you say, the interview that Faye had with him, when you're so short of your answers, it kind of tells you more just because of that, because he clearly doesn't want to be asked about it. And that makes you think there's a reason, there's more to it, but he's not prepared to give us the more to it.
And Thomas Tuchel has already come out and said he loves Dan Burn. Yeah. You know, he loves him as a person, you know, as a character. And again, we talk about good travellers. And he would be my fourth choice centre-half. But I think, and he wouldn't be in if John Stones is fit, but I think that he'd be a great traveller. He'd be a great lad. He'd make sure that, you know, nobody would get bored. Remember the 2010 World Cup where Capello didn't allow the players to do anything and weren't allowed to eat anything. And whatever you say, you need to release a little bit of that pressure. And I think Dan Burn would be a great lad around the training camp.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming Fabio Capello learnt from what happened in Baden-Baden with the Wags and probably thought, well, we're going to go completely away from that.
Probably.
That's not what we want with England and Sven, etc. Tried to change it completely, and that probably backfired
just didn't
as well.
Fit. It was a bad fit.
You're right. Of course, players have to have some element of free time and be able to do something where it's just a bit of normality, as normal as it can possibly be at a World Cup. Quickly, another name that has to be mentioned, Morgan Gibbs-White.
Yeah. Again, another one in a horrible position because there's so many number 10s.
Yeah.
And do I think I think like Ollie Watkins has the opportunity to score 4 or 5 goals from here to the end of the season, and because no one really stood up as that second striker in this particular camp, that he's got the ability to do that. If Morgan Gibbs-White again does something similar and gets Forest away from the relegation zone, which, to be fair, he played really well against Spurs.
Yeah.
Scored a good goal, lovely little flick, back heel against Manchester City as well. And if he helps them to win the Europa League, but he's almost going to have to do something like that to get in. I feel there's enough number 10s there that Thomas Tuchel is picking from the ones he's already picked from.
Okay. To answer your question on Jared Branthwaite and how many appearances he's had, 8 this season. So maybe that is the thinking behind him not even being
There's fresh and then
at.
there's...
Yeah.
Blow the cobwebs away.
There's a little baby.
Yeah.
There. Okay. You're tuning in to Kickoff on TalkSport with Ladbrokes. It's 18 and over. Gambleaware.org. We will hopefully be bringing you the very latest ahead of Derek Chisora against Deontay Wilder next.
Yeah, I know, Ali, I got in trouble with you and Cass yesterday because you accused me of basically coming in and causing absolute chaos with the Mark Cucurella and Chelsea story. So I've got another one for you today. I thought, why not just carry it on?
Good on you.
And I thought we'd carry on with Chelsea and Enzo Fernandes, because Enzo Fernandes in the Chelsea firing line. Chelsea players have been unimpressed with his leadership on and off the pitch during the team's dramatic slump in form. He's berated teammates on the pitch, been vocal in the dressing room. Obviously, he's a vice-captain at Chelsea. He's put his own future in doubt. He has hinted at Real Madrid. He then recently has said on a stream whilst on international duty about how he'd love to live in Madrid. I mean, he ain't really playing hard to get, is he? It's giving a little bit desperate. It's not a good look, is it? As a Chelsea fan, you'd want him out if he's behaving like this.
Well, listen, if he doesn't want to be there, it's very, very difficult for the manager or the players to want somebody in the dressing room like that, they've got the potential to be a bit of a rotten apple, if you like. And I just think there's a few boys, particularly in international duty, they go away and then they get caught up.
They forget, don't they,
Yeah,
their place?
they do. They think that, that these comments won't get back to their mother clubs and things like that. So
say something, Gary, though, and Angelina. Real Madrid aren't paying 100 million for Enzo Fernandes.
No chance.
I'll tell you that now. So you better shut up. Unless he wants to go to Atletico Madrid, I'd shut up, be quiet, and help your team get back into the Champions League.
Over the years, we've been treated to some amazing exhibition events in sports. Some become iconic, but many fail to live up to the hype. So what are some of the most anticlimactic exhibitions? Technically, it wasn't an exhibition because it ended up being sanctioned as a pro fight, but it basically was. 2024 saw Mike Tyson return to the ring to fight YouTuber Jake Paul. The event, which Paul won, was streamed by 65 million people on Netflix, making it the most streamed sporting event ever at the time. But many complained of buffering and freezing. And as for the fight itself, well, it was considered an entertaining disaster. I mean, it wasn't prime Tyson, he was 58, and after the fight, Paul, who was 27 at the time, said he'd actually gone easy on Tyson towards the end. Now, Mayweather-McGregor in 2017 was a better watch, despite Mayweather going rope-a-dope early on, but it was way too expensive. Pay-per-view was 75 quid, and in the stadium, the cheapest ticket was over 370. Now, this next one you could have watched for free, only because the pay-per-view had streaming issues, so they had to open it out. I'm talking about Tiger versus Phil in 2018, which was nicknamed The Match. Massive names and massive rivals going head-to-head. On paper, it worked. In reality, it didn't. The two players were mic'd up, so we all thought we'll get fascinating insight. We'll be able to hear them insult each other for 18 holes. But what we actually got was more heavy breathing and sniffles. And for two GOATs, the golf itself was bang average. And speaking of GOATs, let's end with Messi and Ronaldo. In 2023, an exhibition between PSG and the Riyadh All-Star 11 saw them share a pitch for possibly the final time. To be fair, it was a goal fest, which PSG won 5-4, and Messi and Ronaldo both scored. But it was obvious they were past their prime. El Clasico, this was not. And with it being in Saudi, there were more...
Good evening, this is Kickoff. Welcome along this Thursday evening. I'm Natalie Sawyer, and with me it is the former Chelsea defender Scott Minto. We're going to talk Chelsea a little bit later on and, discuss the plight that they find themselves in as they are chasing a Champions League spot, but going through a bit of a bad patch when it comes to their run of form. It also doesn't help that some of their players being a little bit outspoken in this international break. Oh, I can't help it, Scott. I've just got to read the facts here. I don't love it. You're not even on my radar. But that is to come a little bit later on, because right now we want to focus on the boxing and a huge night that awaits us here on TalkSport. This Saturday, an icon will fall as Derek Chisora collides with the bronze bomber Deontay Wilder at the London O2 Arena. It'll be live on the TalkSport network and on the TalkSport Boxing YouTube channel. So let's take a look ahead to this big fight now with DAZN.
Big fight build-up on TalkSport with DAZN. Watch Derek Chisora versus Deontay Wilder this Saturday, only on DAZN. Buy now at DAZN.com.
I am going to win this fight, and I'm going to walk off and go home.
He's going to throw everything in the kitchen sink at me. He don't care what he hits.
Thou shalt not pass.
Oh, that is why Deontay Wilder is so exciting.
I don't think this fight will go past 8 rounds or 6 rounds.
He's not afraid. It's going to be an all-out war.
Yes, so it's to come on Saturday, an intriguing bout. Joining us to look ahead to it then, it is trainer Dave Caldwell. Dave, good evening. How are you doing?
Good evening. How are you doing? You all right?
Yeah, we're very, very well. Thank you. First of all, I'm going to ask you, have you ever had to head to a press conference on a tank like Derek Chisora did today?
No, I'll tell you what, he's original, isn't it? Yeah. So original. I've never seen that before. I've been in boxing 35 years, and that is honestly the first time I've seen anything like that.
It was a bit nuts, that's for sure.
Dave, look, we've had the press conference. Have you seen it? And if so, what are your takeaways from it?
Yeah, I'm actually around the back of your call, which is where we've had the press conference now. I've just come out now. It was better than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be a bit too nicey-nicey. Though they were polite, you could see that both men mean business, and they're both looking for knockouts. Derek was even talking about doing it in one round.
In one round? That's very confident.
I think Deontay pushed a few buttons when he started talking about how he was gonna go in there and, you know, be the old Deontay Wilder. And Derek just turned around and said, "You know what? I'm gonna do it in a round. I'm looking at one round." So he's made his mind up.
Yeah, they know how to spice these press conferences up, don't they?
So I mean, we know that back in the day, Deontay Wilder, when, you know, he was knocking out boxers in one round as well. Could we see just an explosive fight here that hasn't got a chance of going past 2 or 3 rounds?
You know what? I'll be honest with you. I think we're going to be in for mayhem. I think that's the best way to describe it. I think the stage that both men are at, I think there might be quite a lot of swinging and a lot of missing until something big lands. And I think that's going to be early. You know, they're going to look to test each other's chin. They're both going to come out fast. Deontay Wilder's not he's not going to be coming out looking to win this on points. He knows he just has to land that right hand. So he'll be using his long left to line him up, and looking to land that big right hand on the side of Derek as he's coming in. But whereas Derek, I think he's just going to come forward and march him down.
What do you think happens to the winner and also to the loser in this fight?
So my worry is, obviously I want Derek to win. I'm friends with Derek. I used to coach Derek. My worry is that he beats him and then somebody turns around and says, "We've got a vacant world title shot. Do you fancy a world title shot?" Because then he's going to fight again. I know he's talking that this is his last fight. He wants it to be his last fight. And I've seen him, he's quite emotional about this. So he does definitely want this to be the last fight. But if somebody tempts him with a world title shot, if he beats Deontay Wilder, how is he going to say no to that? So that's if he wins. If he loses, then obviously it's a retirement. But Deontay Wilder, there's something that doesn't sit quite right for me with Deontay, with how he speaks, you know, how he was with Simon Jordan, how he was with Piers, the stuff they were saying on Piers Morgan's Uncensored show. There's something not quite right with him. And I don't think that boxing, taking punches as a head, is the place for him to be in it right now anymore. So I'd like him to retire as well. They both had 50 fights. It'd be nice if, you know, they both walked off in the sunset. But the realities of sportsmen, and especially sportsmen that have been, you know, at the top end, is when they win, they think there's one more.
Yeah.
But Dave, I mean, if Derek Chisora were to win, let's just say hypothetically you were in his corner and there was a possible chance of a world title fight, what would you be advising him?
Well, you understand it, don't you? You understand why. It's like when I had Tony Bellew and he retired for the Hay fight, and then Usyk called him out, and it was an opportunity to fight for the undisputed cruiserweight title. And even though he's retired and I didn't want him to box again, I understood why he wanted to take that challenge. I understood. So if Derek gets past Wilder and somebody offers him a world title fight, you can't, even though you want him to retire because it's a stage of the career where you think it's not the right sport to be in, you understand why they're going to take that opportunity. It's what they've been in the sport for forever, you know, especially Derek. You know, he's never won that world title. If somebody says to you, "Go on, have number 51 and you've got an opportunity to win a world title," I understand why you take it.
In terms of Deontay Wilder, though, I mean, what kind of Wilder are you expecting? Because obviously, you know, he was knocking people out in one round. Tyson Fury, there's incredible trilogy. And since then, he's been a shadow of the boxer that he used to be. So what kind of fighter are you expecting here?
You know what? You've just said it there. The Tyson Fury trilogy, I think, absolutely emptied what we had of Deontay Wilder. It literally took everything out of him. I look at Wilder and I see a guy that doesn't have his legs under him anymore. Now, in boxing, you need your legs for your defense to be able to absorb punches. But even more so, when you're a puncher, you need your legs to be able to fire off and have the strength in them to get your big punches off. Which is why in his last couple of fights, we've looked at Wilder and we haven't seen that power, the bombs that he likes to throw and, this frightening power that he's always had throughout his career. We haven't seen that for his last couple of fights. And that's because I don't think he's got his legs under him. And once the legs go, they don't come back, So that's the version of Wilder that I see. And that's why I lean towards Derek. Because I think, although Derek's not the same fighter as what he once was, and Derek looks more vulnerable now than what he used to be, I just think that he's got a little bit more legs than what Wilder's got.
Just to pick up on what you also mentioned about Wilder, and many people will have seen those interviews you mentioned with Simon Jordan and Piers Morgan, and it does feel as though that something's not quite right with him. Do you feel like the boxing authority should be doing something about this?
The problem is if you pass your medicals and you pass your scans, then what can you do? And he's been passed, and if he's got all his medicals are in order, then it's down to free will, and it's difficult to say in terms of what's wrong with him. Behaviour patterns might change, but it doesn't necessarily mean that there's actual damage in terms of how you would take a scan for to look for damage and stop somebody from boxing, where there's a big change in a scan and you can see the damage to the brain. Then the fights get pulled, but behaviour changes. People can have behaviour changes by medication. I'm not saying that's Wilder, but we know how people, when they take certain medications, then behaviour changes. And it just seems more of a behaviour pattern, because 1 minute, he speaks as eloquently, as nicely, as politely as what he used to do, but then he goes off on a tangent where it's almost like making excuses for everything, or paranoia about the Piers Morgan stuff. That's a little bit extreme paranoia, really. The excuses about Fury's gloves, his suit was too heavy. They're excuses. They're some people make excuses for losing, but that was a little bit extreme. But I just feel as though it just seems to be not quite right,
And from two fighters who are coming towards the end of their career, let's touch on someone who has got a massive future ahead of him, Moses Itoma. He was on Drive yesterday. I mean, just how good is he? And do you think by the end of the year he could have a world title shot?
Oh, wow. Listen, this kid's he's a real deal. I think he's very, very good. And he's the kind of guy now, he's the kind of prospect now, contender that I look at, despite his 14 fights in. You look at that heavyweight division, and would you bet against him against any of them? Now, listen, I think Usyk beats him still because of experience. I think Usyk's a little bit clever, and I think he needs a little bit more seasoning before he gets some Usyk. But that doesn't mean that I don't think he's not capable of beating Usyk. I think he's capable of beating everybody in that division. So taking Usyk away, I would put him in against anybody else in that division right now. Anybody else. I think he's that good. The only question mark is because we haven't seen it yet, we don't know what his gas tank's like. What's he like when he gets on the chin? We always ask these questions of his young prospects. But there's never been anything to suggest that you can't take a shot. The only thing that we don't know is the gas tank.
He didn't panic, though, at the weekend, did he? And he obviously put Jermaine Franklin down in the fifth round and just dismantled him, I think it's fair to say. I'm fascinated to think whether he'll ever fight Usyk, because is it one of those where Usyk knows how dangerous it could be? And how many fights do you think he'd need before he'd be ready to beat Usyk?
You see, if I'm Usyk, we heard Tyson Fury, I think this week, say that he's not fighting. He would never fight Itoma. Those guys, Itoma, Fury, AJ, and Usyk, you're coming towards the end of your career. You've achieved everything, what you've done. Why would you want to risk going out, losing to this young kid when you don't really have to. And I think Usyk's going to look at that and go, do you know what? I don't need that fight. Beating an Atuma doesn't add anything to his legacy, I don't think, because he's just a young prospect. If he beats him, that's what we'll call him. Oh, you should have beaten him. He's a young prospect. It's not like it gathers anything towards his legacy that he's already created in his career. So I don't think that he'll fight him because of that reason. As to how good Atuma is, I genuinely think that he's going to be the guy that leads the division for a long time to come, as long as he keeps grounded, as he is, as long as he keeps the right people around him, and he doesn't let it get to his head. The fame, the trappings, the money. We also, we all see a lot of sports, not just boxing. We see it in football, where we think that this kid's going to be the next big thing, and they shine brightly for a short period of time, and then they fade out. Well, Atuma seems like he's got the personality where that's not going to happen to him, but I don't know him, so that's the only thing that I would worry about, is that he keeps himself grounded, because if he does, I think he's going to be a sensation for years to come.
Dave, as always, it's lovely to chat to you. Thank you for sparing the time.
Thanks a lot. Cheers. Speak to you later.
That's Dave Caldwell, the boxing trainer, and you can obviously find out more about this fight, which is available on DAZN. It's Chisora against Wilder. You can catch it live this Saturday only on DAZN. You can buy that now at dazn.com.
Big fight build-up on TalkSport with DAZN. Watch Derek Chisora versus Deontay Wilder this Saturday, only on DAZN. Buy now at dazn.com.
And we will be bringing it to you live on the TalkSport network, as well as our TalkSport Boxing YouTube channel with a watch-along. On the way next, we'll focus on the Premier League and ask that question of, has the quality diminished? That's next.
In terms of greatest Premier League managers, because if he does leave, he will go down as one of the greats.
Yes.
What's your top three?
Sir Alex, Pep, and Jose for me.
What?
They're
Jose Mourinho?
Yeah. What do you mean, Jose Mourinho?
Not Arsene Wenger.
Arsene Wenger was in the conversation.
Oh, you're putting Jose in there?
Yeah, of course I'm putting Jose in there. 5.5 years, three Premier Leagues. Arsene Wenger had
Premier League all-time manager.
22 years he was there, Arsene Wenger. Won 3. Jose 5.5. Won 3.
I mean, in terms of
Sir Alex, because he was there.
Sir Alex is no question, right?
He's the Don. He is the Don.
Yeah.
Right. He's the Don.
Yeah.
Pep's number 2. Can't argue because it's longevity as well. How long's he been there, Pep? Is it 9 or 10 years? I think I'm right in saying that. If it's not 9, it's coming up for 10.
26.
Okay, so 10 years he's got. Okay.
Right, yeah.
He's won 6 Premier Leagues.
Yeah.
Come on. That's...
Yeah, no, but Arsene Wenger changed football.
Oh, he did?
Arsene Wenger, when he come to the Premier League, he revolutionised the game. He completely changed the way we play now, the way the Premier League is, what it's become. Really and truthfully, was down to Arsene Wenger.
Without question, because Arsene Wenger changed the attitude. So I remember Arsene Wenger used to come in, used to get the players coming in on a Sunday for a warm down, right? And I was at Ipswich at the time. All of a sudden, I was at George Play. He's got us coming in for a warm down on a Sunday. What's all this about? Arsene Wenger started it.
Yeah.
So I drive from London up to Ipswich for a warm down.
Yeah, but he did. He revolutionised the game. He changed the way that athletes.
Yeah, but fans don't care about that.
Good evening. This is Kickoff. You are tuning into this Thursday evening, and it is Scott Minto and Natalie Sawyer with you until the Sports Bar at 10. And for the next half hour or so, we are going to be asking if the quality of the Premier League has diminished even, and if so, why? We'll also be asking you the big question, what does entertainment mean to you? It's a chance for you to send in your views on this one. Let us know why, if you think the Premier League quality has gone down, why you think that is so, or perhaps you have an alternative view as well. Let's get into hearing from the former Swansea and Everton defender Ashley Williams, who joined Hugh Woodencroft last night on Kickoff, and this was his view on the season so far.
Drab, honestly. But what I will say on that is, as a football fan, it's not really, doesn't entertain you. The football that we're watching, you only got to look back at some of the old shows and see the old rivalries with Manchester United and Arsenal. And there's no rivalry between Manchester City and Arsenal. It's not, do you know what I mean? You don't get that fiery games. You miss all of that. But what I will say, and I've spoke on this before, is people criticise Arsenal for winning the way they win. Well, they've got a job to do. It's entertainment for us watching it, but it's their job. They don't really care about putting on a show for anybody. They want to win the Premier League, and they're going to do it any way that they can. So that's that from a player's point of view. But as a watch, it's not been great, I don't think.
Okay, so that is what the former Premier League defender Ashley Williams had to say on that. Let's get the view of another former Premier League defender. Where do you stand on the whole debate that's raging right now about the quality, if you like, of the Premier League?
Yeah, look, I played in an era before Ashley where, you're playing against Manchester United and it's Beckham, Keane, Scholes, Giggs, just, world-class players. And that rivalry between United and Arsenal and Sir Alex Ferguson and Arsene Wenger was amazing. I think the rivalry on the pitch between Manchester City and Liverpool, Pep City and Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool was amazing. I think they went out the way not to do a Fergie and a Wenger. I think the quality, I think, has come up from the bottom teams. I think you are seeing much less 4-5-0ers, and certainly 4-goal, 5-goal margins. But I also think at the top, I think that it's become almost so mechanical. And I think it's just literally in the last season or two. Because I do think when Pep Guardiola's, and this is very subjective, what I'm about to say, I think that Manchester City side of Pep Guardiola at their height is the best club side this country's seen. Very, very subjective. I look at, Bob Paisley's Liverpool side of the early 80s, Sir Alex Ferguson's side, Jose Mourinho's side, Arsene Wenger's side. None of them, going back to their whole history of top-flight English football, has ever won 4 straight Division 1 titles. And there's a treble in there as well, with what Pep Guardiola did. So I look at that, and we talked about Kevin De Bruyne and the type of players that they had, David Silva as well as the Bernardo Silva, even though he's still around. I just think it's almost like it was so good then. For me, it was almost at its height in terms of playing pure football, and having played professional football myself, but not been able to quite play at the level that they played at, I can only appreciate how good they were. Defenders playing out in the way they did, the way the fullbacks are getting up and down that my body couldn't do. I used to hate playing wing back. The way the midfielders playing little 1-2s between, when you've got a man on you already. And then the likes of, Sergio Aguero or, whoever it may be, Mo Salah in his prime, just absolute sheer brilliance. And it's interesting, Ashley Williams talks about the players that he sort of played against, and the names are just absolutely incredible. They really are. At Arsenal, you had Ozil and Sanchez. At Chelsea, Costa, Pedro, Hazard, Willian, Fabregas. Obviously, there's Didier Drogba back in the day as well, as long as with the likes of Frank Lampard. Mane, Firmino, Coutinho, Kane, Ali, Ericsson, Son, Sterling, Sane, Aguero. They bought Jesus, Kevin De Bruyne, and 2 Silvers, of course. And then at Manchester United, Pogba, who perhaps didn't quite do it really. Zlatan coming towards the end of his career, and Wayne Rooney. So those are the players that he came up against. I'm not sure we football allows the kind of individual talent in the way that it used to then, and especially in my day. Where would Matt Letizia fit in now? And yet, he's a Premier League icon. He's a Premier League legend. The goals that he scores, most of us can only dream about. Even the present-day players can only dream about. But would he be a Premier League player nowadays? I'm not so sure. So I think we've got to be careful with sort of saying about how it's become much more physical now. It has definitely become more physical because it's tried to negate the football, and the press has suddenly come in. And now how do you beat the press? Where you go longer, you have the set pieces. So it's all about trying to evolve and negate what the best teams do right now. And when you've got Mikel Arteta doing what he's doing, I don't blame him at all. He's got the best squad for the last 3 years, the bridesmaid, not the bride. He has to make sure they find a way to win the Premier League. But what I don't really want, and this is not just a slight on him, is the next 10 years, the winners of the Premier League to be playing in the style of football that they're playing. I don't blame them at all for relying on set pieces, and not just relying on set pieces, but I think we had it under Klopp and Pep Guardiola. We had it absolutely, it was just amazing football to watch, certainly from my point of view.
But then why? Why has it changed so drastically, do you think? I mean, is there something like the fact that we have VAR, that the stop-start element, does that kind of cause problems to the, well, as I mentioned, the sort of flow of football?
I think it definitely has an issue in terms of flow of football, but VAR goes on around the world, certainly in Europe now, so we just have to do it better.
Right.
I mean, I hope in many respects that the EFL don't bring it in. I think most EFL fans don't want it in. Let's keep it to that kind of old traditional football in that sense. But the Premier League has become a multi-billion-pound industry where if someone's made a mistake, then it might get into the courts. I think football's gone down that route, which I hate. I absolutely hate. And owners have come in now that are looking to, look at Chelsea, look at Manchester City, look at a lot of the clubs who are almost making it, if anything legally isn't quite right, they'll take the Premier League down the legal route, and that's not football. So look, in terms of on the pitch, I just think it's a way of finding out how can we stop this quality team. And I think with Pep City and Klopp's Liverpool, it's almost like, okay, we need to defend deep, we need to make sure that we don't give them any time, or really try and attack them. Remember at the start of the season, Thomas Frank's Tottenham did just that against Manchester City.
Yeah.
But this is not the City side of a few years ago. It's just a way of trying to find a way to stop the top teams. And I think the physicality of it now is a way of doing that. And I think you just lose a little bit of flair.
Well, I mean, here's some stats perhaps to go with this argument. Perhaps the quality is diminished. Through 28 weeks, Premier League teams have combined for 505 open play goals. That's the fewest since the pandemic season of 2020-21. But if we were to take that season out of the history books, because let's say no fans in the stands, it's the lowest scoring season from open play since 2009-10. Does that alarm you?
Yeah. Listen, I've always said, even when everybody's trying to copy Pep Guardiola and trying to play the beautiful football, and even in the third tier, I saw 6'5" centre halves being asked, and they were head-it, kick-it centre halves being asked to play like they were Xavi on the edge of their box. People were trying to copy the Guardiola look, and it's like, no. Just score with how you can possibly score, set pieces. It's not unsexy to score with set pieces. And it's almost gone the other way now, because that's the easiest way to score against these incredibly talented technical teams, where quite often they're not the 6'4", athletes. It's about playing little ticky-tacky football. We've gone down the route now of the opposite. I've always said set pieces are really important, but I still want to see the majority of the goals come from open play. Really good football. Little 1-2s, shots from outside the box in the top corner. To be fair, Aston Villa have done that this season in terms of outside the box. But yeah, I don't want to go too far that way. And I feel that this season in particular, maybe the last couple of seasons, it has gone that way.
We're going to continue this discussion after the break, but just to let you know, Cambridge have taken the lead against Swindon. Ben Wright has given them the goal that moves them into the automatic promotion places. It's still, I think, goalless between Wigan and Leyton Orient in a game in League One, which sees two sides trying to pull further clear of the relegation zone. We'll keep you regularly updated on those, and a little bit later on we'll focus on the EFL and what is a busy weekend of Easter action. But as I say, we'll continue to talk about the standard of the Premier League next here on Kickoff.
you look at the fact that Chelsea have done 600 million worth of transfers in the 25-26 season and paid 65 million agents fees. Now go look at Aston Villa. Aston Villa have done 70 million worth of transfers, 57 million worth of sales, and paid 38 million pounds in agents fees. So when you look at the ratios, you go, you did 120 million worth of business and you paid 38 million, which is about 25-26%.
Right.
Chelsea have done 600 million worth of business and paid 65 million. So whilst the numbers look horrible and in the scale of things enormous, in the representative terms of what business has been done, they're not enormous. Now, then you take the losses. Chelsea got 100, however they got it and however they concocted it, they got 125 million pounds worth of profit last year. We know how they did it. They sold their women's team and a whole raft of other things.
I'm going to get to that.
So the PS, well, that was what they were allowed to do, right? And in previous times,
I agree.
In previous times, Man City and Chelsea were allowed to build football teams with impunity, and Newcastle can't. So we all are a product of timing, and we're all a product of opportunity, and we're all a product of creative outcomes based upon the circumstances that we operate in the time that we operate them in. So I look at this and go, yeah, they've made 250 million pounds of losses, right? We are, if they're not worried about it and they believe they can cover the gap between the PSR and also the consequences of squad cap rules that they put into place, that they've got consequence on already, then that's their business.
But it's up to us to observe it. And if Chelsea are the biggest spenders on agents and the biggest spenders on transfers and have the biggest losses, how on earth can Egbali, Behdad Egbali, who you met recently, and to quote you, is one of the most impressive operators you've ever met in football?
One of the most compelling is what I said. Yeah.
Schumacher inside the penalty area, scoots it back towards Fabregas. Lovely bit of football, lovely finish from Cesc Fabregas, and Arsenal are 2-0 in front.
The levels are Bale, Ronaldo, Tevez, Rooney, right? Okay, that's where I'm going. I'm going to Bergkamp, Henry. What's happened to football in this country?
Rooney picking up the pass from Ashley Young, and then he shoots towards the bottom corner and it outwits Joe Hart.
Forward strides Ben Davies, clips the ball into the area. Kane! Spurs make the breakthrough!
All these superstar players that were playing in the Premier League, De Bruyne, all these players, now you're looking at it and saying...
It ends at Ellen Road, not the dramatic ending we were hoping for to a bumper day of football on the TalkSport network, but it ends Leeds 0, Brentford 0.
So it ends at the City Ground, Forest 0, Fulham 0.
There's the full-time whistle, it's finished here, Wolves 0, Newcastle 0.
But I genuinely don't think that the Premier League is as good as it was 15, 20 years ago.
This is Kickoff that you're tuning into this Thursday evening, and it is Scott Minto and Natalie Sawyer with you until 10 o'clock. We are talking about the quality of the Premier League this season and want you to get involved and let us know what you think about it, whether you think it's diminished, whether you think actually maybe teams have just caught up or at least learned how to stop some of the teams that we would deem as having the quality, for example. We had a really interesting message I want to read to you, Scott. This is from Matthew, an Arsenal fan. He says, the quality of the Premier League hasn't diminished, it has improved, but that still reduced the spectacle because now it is data-driven and choreographed by an incredible level of science and game management. Maverick players, for example, Grealish, have been driven out. The top games are decided by errors, not flair, because all the players are operating to minutely intricate levels of game management. And if the players don't operate to that pattern, they don't play. I mean, that's a really good text.
I think it's a great text. I really agree with it. And when I hear people sort of say, "Oh, well, no, the keeper's just got to get rid of it. Why is he playing?" And to the centre half there.
Yeah.
Because his manager has told him that's the way I want you to play, and if you don't, you're not going to play. So it's almost like goalkeepers now are expected to play like number 10s. Centre halves are expected to play like number 10s. And number 10s don't play like number 10s when they're on the edge of the box, you know. So I couldn't agree more. And, you know, listen to Jace Cundy there. I wouldn't necessarily go back as far as 15, 20 years, although you can. I think what we saw, as I say, with Klopp's Liverpool and Pep City, I think we saw just an incredible rivalry and two teams. You know, when you're getting 90-odd points now, it's incredible. I do think the lesser teams have got a lot better. They've made it a lot more difficult to beat. But there's a lot of 0-0s at the moment. And that do you know what? That text is absolutely spot on. It's almost like they're pieces of chess. Or Ange Postecoglou once, he said, I'd like to have my players like on a joystick and I could tell them exactly where to go. The flair hasn't gone completely, but it's not in the way that it used to be. And I don't feel this season in particular is as entertaining. If I'm an Arsenal fan, I wouldn't care. I just want us to win the title. I say us. If I were an Arsenal fan, I'm not. But I want football to get back into the way that we saw, I'd say 5 years ago, where there's a mixture and not just a reliance on set-piece goals, because the set-piece goals have got a lot higher now than ever before.
Yeah, well, set-piece goals have risen in this season, accounting for over 27% of all goals scored by early March.
That's not to say I want the set-piece goals to go down.
Well, a lot of set-piece coaches right now are having words with you.
No, I don't want the number of goals to go down on set-pieces, because it always has been important. I just want, you know, almost not playing for set-pieces. I want more open play goals. So the amount of goals, set-pieces hasn't gone down, but the percentages have.
Yes, okay. And I see what you're saying about open play goals, and I get that completely. But you can also see why some teams have gone down the set-piece route, because they'll now see that more as a weapon. Maybe they can't play through teams, but they can certainly cause havoc with however they use a set-piece to their advantage. So you can see why that's developed the way it has, surely.
Yeah, and I don't blame. I mean, Arne Slot, how many times has he said in press conferences, it's difficult if the team just drops up. But, well, yeah, and if you keep on saying it, they're going to keep on doing it.
I never understand that. Don't tell them your weakness.
Nor me. I mean, it's, you know, he's almost too honest in that sense. Going back to that text, I think he's absolutely spot on. I think they're almost playing like, not like chess, but just exactly a tactical game where they're not looking to the fullbacks aren't overlapping perhaps as much, or the midfielders aren't looking to try and do something go past the player. How often do you see it where it goes pass, 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 pass? Actually, once someone can break the line, then suddenly the opposition's plan has gone out the window because you've now gone past that player. And I don't see that quite enough. Phil Foden is probably a great example of that. 2 seasons ago, he was doing it. Now he's not.
You mentioned Arne Slot. He has spoken recently about really wanting to have more... The most important thing for him is style at this present moment over trophies. He said trophies is one thing, but being a team, club or a manager that stands for good football is in the long term worth more. Now, I don't know if fans buy into that necessarily if you're not winning something at the end of it.
It's absolute nonsense.
Okay.
I mean, it is... And I don't want to be critical of Arne Slot because he's clearly a top-class manager, but it tells me that's someone who is really in a bad position right now because you're not winning the game. So you can't say it's all about the winning. So I'm going to try and dress it up and say, you know, it's about the style. No, it's not. Ask any Liverpool fan, you know, have they enjoyed last season more or this season more? You know, and it is all about winning trophies. And if you can win trophies with style, brilliant. But it's first and foremost, it's about winning trophies. That's the most important thing.
Well, exactly that. I mean, but the thing is, obviously, there's only a small number per season that can win trophies.
But then don't come out and say style is more important than trophies. It's not. We want to play with style. We want to win trophies. We're trying to do with both. We did it last season. We struggling this season for different reasons, as many people have given the reasons as to why. But to say style is more important than trophies is just a nonsense. And for me, there's a growing more and more Liverpool fans who are not happy with Arne Slot, and then listening to that, I think that will only get bigger.
Gareth asks or poses this sort of statement: teams are more afraid to lose than want to win. Do you think that's what we're seeing as well?
Yeah, well, I think it comes from the managers. I think it's almost a question of, look, we're going to make ourselves difficult to beat, and if we can nick one down the other end, so be it. You know, I look at Brentford and what Keith has done. Absolutely fantastic, and I couldn't blame him at all, because I actually said to him, if you finish 17th this season, you should be up there for manager of the season. Losing your best players, arguably the greatest manager's gone, and this is your first job. So what he's done is brilliant, and no one can argue with the tactics. But teams can't live with that. Teams can't live with what he's done. They have to find a way around it, but at the moment they're not. So for Brentford to do it, not a problem at all. For the top teams to do it, you almost want that little bit more, because they're paying that more for players. They're paying players more in terms of salaries. They're paying the managers more. So, I go back to the Klopp, and it's just a great watch. I go back to Pep City. For me, pure football. I had nothing but admiration for them and the way that they play, because I know how difficult it is to play in those situations.
But you also said if Arsenal win the title this season, then it's not a problem the way they've gone about it, because for so long they have ended up as the runner-up. So why does it matter?
This season.
Ultimately. But why does it matter anyway? Any season? Because in 5-10 years' time, are we going to go, do you remember that season where Arsenal were really terrible? No, we won't. We'll just say they won this.
I think they will.
Really?
Yeah, I think there'll be a lot of people who will. But to those people...
But if they go on to dominate football...
I'm no Arsenal fan, but if anyone says that, I'll just throw they won the Premier League title. That's all you have to say. They won the Premier League title.
And they could go on and dominate.
Yeah, but I'm talking about from a neutral point of view.
Mm-hmm.
From a neutral point of view, I want to see the top teams playing great, scintillating football, doing things that we only dreamed to do as a kid, in the school playground, and when you perhaps could do it, a Kevin De Bruyne, a Mo Salah, that type of player. I don't want to see it functional. I don't want to see it, aren't they difficult to beat? They've got the first goal, so they're going to go and win the game now. I want it to be a bit more exciting. And in terms of the products for the Premier League as well, they need to make sure it stays exciting. So, the Premier League by far is the biggest in, you just look at the money that they earn. But that's because anybody can beat anybody. Plus, it's just this kind of fast-paced, scintillating football. We need to keep that up. We need to make sure it doesn't become
And I do get your point. And I'm sure what we're seeing of Arsenal now is the functional thing is because, as we've alluded to already, they've been there and done it and not quite got it over the line. They've had to change things around because they probably thought we've tried it that way. That didn't work. This is maybe the only way for us to get it done this time around. But maybe it changes once they've got that winning mentality into the team.
The first one is always the hardest. And again, not in any way am I putting one bit of criticism towards Mikel Arteta, because he's built a squad and he's been given that by the hierarchy, and fair play to them and to him. He's got full control of that football club. And I think it's absolutely the right way to do it, but he needs to win. He needs to win the Premier League. And you know what? If Arsenal play this type of football, and I don't want to be overly critical on Arsenal because they have got really good players, and I feel they have got a little bit more. I remember 3 years ago, 2-3 years ago, I did a game at TalkSport at Stamford Bridge, and Arsenal thrashed Chelsea 1-0. Honestly, it was like, wow, that was an amazing game of football to watch. As a neutral, as a Chelsea fan, I didn't like it. A former Chelsea player, I didn't like it. But as a neutral, that was incredible football. Now, mentally, they weren't quite ready to be in that position. I think they are now. And if they play like this for the next 5 years and win the next 5 Premier League titles, fair play to them. I'd love to be an Arsenal player and have those amount of those medals. But just from a neutral point of view, I want to see a little bit more flair, and I don't quite know. I don't quite think that we're getting that. Be interesting to hear what the listeners think.
Yeah, absolutely. And the question I'm going to ask you to think about over the break is, who do you think is the face of the Premier League right now? Have a think. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes here on Kickoff. You're tuning in to TalkSport with Ladbrokes. It's 18 and over. GambleAware.org.
Is it nigh on impossible, Frank, to keep a lid on the hype surrounding Moses at the moment?
No, it's not. And the Zone had a massive rating for the fight. I think it's their highest rating this year for it, so I'm told. So, he's people are well aware of who he is and what a talent he is, and he showed that certainly on Saturday. It was a very mature, performance with a very durable, tough guy, and he'd done a job. He'd done a magnificent job, and look, that's the future of boxing. He's the future of heavyweight boxing, and I'd have no problem tomorrow making him with Mr. Usyk. I'd make it in a heartbeat tomorrow.
Question, Frank, for you. I mean, we had the other day on Talk Boxing Nakisa Badarian, who I know you'll know, and he talked about, and you don't need to be taught how to manage and match fights, right? That's not what I'm making the point here. I'm sort of sense checking what he said. His attitude was, he would, if he was managing Atomi, it'd stick him in with Andy Ruiz in Madison Square Garden, because it gives an opportunity, A, to put him in against another decent fighter to give him another learning curve, but also breaks him into America by doing something Anthony Joshua couldn't do, which is knocking out American heavyweight that has some repute. Is that got some sense in that thinking?
Sorry, who was it who said that?
Nakisa Badarian, Jake Paul's promoter, and
Nikita's a very good promoter, and he knows what he's doing. We will be going to America. That's obvious. That will happen this year, and who the opponent is, we'll see. If it's Ruiz or any, I haven't got a problem with him fighting any American fighter at all.
This is Kickoff on TalkSport. You are in the company of Scott Minto and Natalie Sawyer as we take you through until 10. And we're continuing the discussion on the quality of the Premier League. Whether you feel it's gone down or not, that is what we are focusing on right now.
So subjective, isn't it?
Completely. And that's why I'm going to ask you my question that I posed before the break. Who is the face of the Premier League?
Oh, I didn't even. We were too
you
busy
didn't think about it, did you? I mean, I set you a task. Is this what you like
one
at school?
One job. I mean, look. I mean, Erling Haaland, you have to say, is one of the best strikers on the planet. Mm-hmm. So he's definitely. I mean, Mo Salah with him going, and Kevin De Bruyne is not around anymore. I remember we kind of touched on this on Saturday, didn't we? And I didn't mention someone that I'm definitely
still thinking why
now.
you're mentioning him. Yeah, go on.
Bruno Fernandes.
Yeah.
What that guy has done in an era where United have been really an average Premier League side, which again, I go back to the United side that I played against. Again, I'll mention that sort of midfield of Beckham, Keane, Scholes, Giggs. I mean, that was just unbelievable. Winning Champions League, winning Premier League regularly, winning FA Cups. But for him to do what he's done in the post-Sir Alex Ferguson era, where the shirt has just weighed far too heavy for so many talented players, and then it looks like they either haven't got the right attitude, and it might be they haven't got the attitude, or they just can't handle the pressure of playing for United and trying to get back to where they once were. For Bruno Fernandes to stand head and shoulders above anybody else in a United shirt, for me, gives extra kudos. His numbers stand up, not just as the best player that United have had in the last decade, but as up there with the best Premier League players. So I actually think, although Erling Haaland is probably top 3 strikers in the world, I actually would argue that Bruno Fernandes, whether he's the face of the Premier League, I'm not sure. Maybe there aren't as many faces, and that's the point, as there used to be. But I would say he's one of the best Premier League players of the last decade.
Do you think, though, in a way, and I'm talking football as a whole, that maybe faces aren't there as much? Do you know what I mean? Because you can list some of the Manchester United players of the old, likewise Chelsea, for example. But if you look across the whole of football, I know you can still bring in your Ronaldo and Messi, Mbappe, maybe a Vinicius Junior, Bellingham with Real Madrid, all these sorts of things. But Do you think we're lacking in general?
In the world?
Yeah.
I think we probably are.
Yeah.
I think, again, the football's gone so athletic. And I thought it did when sort of I finished football. It's gone even more. When I first started playing, it was can you play and then can you run? By the end of the time, it was like if you can't run, it doesn't even matter if you can play. You won't last. And it's gone even more so. I think the level, the technicality, as well as the physicality of the Premier League has gone on much more in the last 20 years. But actually, it's not allowed the individual flair. You still get the Thierry Henry, the Bergkamp, the Zola, the Cantona. I think they'd stand out, but I think there'd be fewer. And it's all about what the coach wants. The managers have become more important than ever. It's still ultimately about the players. Pep Guardiola couldn't manage Accrington Stanley and take them to the Champions League, with the greatest of respect. But the managers have become much more important, and it's almost like centre halves. They're not taught first and foremost to defend. They're taught to play out from the back. Do they communicate in the way that, say, a John Terry, a Rio Ferdinand, a Vidic would have done? I look at it and I see goalkeepers coming out and almost clashing with their defenders, and clearly no one talked there. Basic communication, basic leadership. We talk about Chelsea, and we probably will do later. There's not enough leaders. There's not enough leaders, I think, generally in the Premier League. So yes, absolutely. There aren't enough superstars around the world, but the top superstars like Ronaldo and Messi generally will go to a Real Madrid or Barcelona. Look at Vinny Jr., Bellingham, Kylian Mbappe. Where are they?
Real Madrid, indeed. So I suppose, to broaden the question, what is entertainment for you when it comes to football right now?
Well, I mean, entertainment now is different to when I was playing. When I was playing, it was all about winning. And if I'm a sort of like a fan going to buying a season ticket and watching my team week in, week out, and travelling in the way that they do, and it's incredible how they somehow find the money to do that, the fans, it would be about winning. Winning is the be all and end all. But if you can win with style, then that makes it even more enjoyable. And actually, even if you lose, I remember being at West Ham a few times and we'd lose some games 4-3, maybe win 3-2. I remember going down to 9 men one time. I think Steve Lomas and Ian Wright got sent off. And in the end, we got hammered by Leeds 5-1. We got clapped off because we actually gave absolutely everything and we put on a really good performance. And in the end, they just in the last sort of 10, 15 minutes or whatever, they score goals. So it's about giving absolutely everything. That's all the fans ultimately want to see. But the way that football's gone now, it looks like they're not trying, but actually it's become so technical that that's what the managers want them to do.
Yeah. It's an interesting one, isn't it? And it does come also down to the level of maybe the team that you support or your team's aspirations, for example. So if I bring in my team, Brentford, who I know now, this is our 5th season in the Premier League. We're loving life in the Premier League. But for me, sometimes what I deem as entertainment might be a little bit what you said there about that defeat you had at West Ham, about sometimes giving teams who we obviously would deem better than us in the Premier League just a good game. We might not win it. And I remember there was a game a couple of seasons ago at the GTEC. We lost 1-0 at home to Chelsea. But my God, how we did not score in the second half. We completely battered them in the second half.
I don't believe you.
It's absolutely true. And Ben Chilwell, you know how things stand out in your memory? Ben Chilwell was being interviewed afterwards and he even said it was hell out there. And I took such a compliment from that. And that's the things that I see as entertainment. Little moments that you've actually thought to yourself, we actually challenged them. We didn't win the game and it's disappointing we didn't get something out of it. But my goodness, did we give him a game?
Yeah.
That for me, I just take such highs from that. Of course you take the highs from the winning as well. Of course you do. And this season has been brilliant. As you already rightly mentioned, that when no one would have given Brentford a chance at the start of this season with everything that happened.
You're still 3 points off a Champions League place.
Yeah, I don't want to be...
With 7 games to go.
I know, and I don't want to be a doom monger, but I'm just not sure. I'm not even sure we'll finish as high as we are.
But just that
at
sentence,
this present moment.
the fact that we're talking about
it's incredible.
In April.
Absolutely, it's incredible.
It's amazing.
Yeah. And there will always be amazing results that we've had in the last few years in the Premier League. Winning at the Etihad like we did 2-1 just before the World Cup of Qatar. Though I was there and it was the most amazing victory to witness. But as I say, it's just moments sometimes that you can come away thinking, yeah, we didn't win it, but my goodness, we were excellent.
Yeah, and do you know what? In terms of style, I know a lot of people, and I loved watching Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool, but I actually appreciated Pep Guardiola's City more. Yeah. because of you can see the way that the training has gone into it, the way that these players are being asked to play pure football out from the back, little 1-2s, even not in their own box. And I think there's been some managers, including Zerbi, who has perhaps took it even further. Pep didn't mind Edison knocking it long up to Erling Haaland. It's not a problem. But I just think during those 3-4 years where City were on top, that football was football in its purest form, and the football that I would have loved to have played.
We've had a few messages coming. I'm going to quickly read them. Face of the Premier League. This one from Dave in Cardiff suggests Dominic Szoboszlai. More exciting than most players this season.
He's been Liverpool's best player for sure.
Yeah.
Is
very
he the
much
face
so.
of the Premier League?
I'm not. He's not the first name that you think of.
No.
But he certainly has been.
But top player.
Yeah, one
And
of the
Liverpool's
standouts
best
for
player this
Liverpool.
season.
Yeah.
The standout.
Gareth says football is in danger of becoming like NFL as a watch. Players in fear of making mistakes, sideways, backways, managers wanting to control. Just let the players play.
Agree.
He says. George also says, I'll tell you why I believe the Premier League has gone down. The majority of Premier League players are so overrated and so overpaid. Rarely do you see a striker hit the ball on target. The majority of the Premier League teams can go the whole match and have just 4 shots on target. Is that football to admire? No. And he's been a Man United fan since 1968, he says.
He's seen it all. I'll tell you what's interesting, when Bayern Munich have come out and said it, that actually they're going to go sort of down the route of sprinkle superstars, and then the rest are sort of young academy guys coming through the ranks. So in other words, that kind of middle rank player, for PSR reasons as well, perhaps won't get the money that they have in the last sort of 10 years. So the superstars they'll still go for, but then they'll try and get the rest, and that's where the academy comes in, or identifying that young talent.
Okay. We are going to talk about one of your loves next. Chelsea. And what on earth is going on? You've got players saying all sorts of things during this international break. They've not had the best of form. They're fighting to get into the Champions League as well. That's coming up next in just a few minutes here on Kickoff.
When we look at the end of the season, let's talk about the title race and the run-in. Manchester City and Arsenal going head-to-head. Arsenal, obviously, in the prime seat right now. They've got Bournemouth at home, City away, Newcastle and Fulham at home, a trip to West Ham before they host Burnley and have Palace on the final day. One extra game to be played by Manchester City. They're away at Chelsea. This isn't this weekend, of course. They're both playing in the FA Cup, but when the Premier League does return, Manchester City will be away at Chelsea. They'll host Arsenal. They're away at Burnley and Everton. They're at home to Brentford, away at Bournemouth, and then 2 home games to end the season against Villa and Palace. When you look at the run-ins, who do you favour?
Arsenal. I think they've got a better run-in, and from Arsenal's point of view, if they can't get that done, I'll be shocked. Yeah. I'll be shocked. I think they've been brilliant all season in terms of the way they've managed games, the way they've won games. Going back to that, they've just won games. They haven't been brilliant on the eye at times. Who cares in their camp? Who cares in that dressing room? Just get it done. And now when I'm looking at the run-in, that is a favourable run-in for Arsenal. They've got the Manchester City game. They can even afford to lose that. People are talking about the final the other day. Well, you can lose that game, and I still back you to win all of the other games anyway. So, if they don't do it, I don't know. If they'll never do it if they don't do it this season.
I think it has to be Arsenal, who have a 9-point lead at the moment. Obviously, City have a game in hand. It has to be done. They've won 4 games in a row, Arsenal, in the Premier League, by the way.
Let's be honest, we've all found ourselves raging at a referee's decision at some stage. This feel familiar?
That is an absolutely shocking decision.
They've got a case in that it was a bad decision.
It's such a poor decision.
Yeah, I think he's just made a bad decision in that instance.
But what does it take to get to the very top of football refereeing? Every referee starts with their county FA. It's a simple training course and you can take it as soon as you hit your 14th birthday. Once you've done that, you have to go through at least 11 hours of face-to-face training. You'll then graduate as a Level 7 official, which means you can take charge of county-level games. But hold your horses, there's still a long way to go to get to the Premier League. Your next step is to spend a year each at Levels 6, 5 and 4. This covers the top of the amateur game. Only at Level 3 do you start doing Northern Counties or Isthmian League level games, for example. If you've done this all quickly, you can reach Level 2 and ref your first National League match after, I don't know, 6 years? After getting enough experience at that level, you can apply to be a referee in the EFL. There's an interview, people watching you do games, and then, if the EFL are happy, you'll be granted a Level 1 licence to ref in games in League 2 and above. Now, they don't just say on you go to the Premier League, you have to work your way up through the divisions. Only after years of hard work and refereeing on cold Tuesday nights in Stoke can you be considered to do matches in some of Europe's very best stadiums. Now, who was the youngest to reach the very top? It was actually Michael Oliver. He refed his first Premier League match in 2010 at the tender age of just 25. So if you want to follow in his footsteps, crack on. It'll only take you roughly a decade, thousands of hours of work and an incredibly thick skin. In total, there are 37,000 registered referees across England, but the PGMOL has only deemed 21 good enough for the top flight. That means there's not even a 1 in 1,000 chance you'll even make it in. Obviously, referees can make mistakes, but when you think about it, having a go at them is kind of like slating a brain surgeon.
Good evening, this is TalkSport, this is Kickoff, and you are tuning in to Natalie, Sawyer and Scott Minto, what is our final hour of the show. We will be chatting EFL in around about 15 minutes time on what is a very pivotal weekend when it comes to the race for promotion, the relegation situations as well. And just on the subject of that, 2 games ongoing in Leagues 1 and 2. In League 1, it's still goalless between Wigan and Leyton Orient. These two teams battling it at the wrong end of the table, but not in the bottom 4, but certainly want to put more distance between that and themselves. And in League 2, it's just got underway in the second half. Cambridge leads Swindon by 1-0. It's a goal that has moved Cambridge into second, back into the automatic promotion places. As for Swindon, they're in the playoff spots as things stand. But as we know, it's a massive, massive weekend of Easter football that's going to have huge implications at the top and bottom of all of the EFL. We've also got the FA Cup quarter-finals coming your way across the TalkSport network this weekend, and that gives us a chance because Chelsea are going to be in action on Saturday as they host Port Vale. It's a 5:15 kickoff at the Bridge for that one. That's live on TalkSport, and it also gives us the chance to talk about your club, Scott. And
well, we're going to be there.
We are going to be at that game. And
you're going to wear your Brian Clough sweatshirt there as well?
Yes, for those that haven't seen us on YouTube, we are streaming. I have a bright green, Brian Clough-esque jumper. I just want some respect from you.
Absolutely.
Scott. That's what this is all about.
Absolutely. Is that where we talk and then we realise actually you were always right in the first place?
I literally hold the strings of the puppets. Absolutely. Let's talk Chelsea, though, and what on earth is going on with them, because not only is their form sort of falling away a little bit at this present moment, some of their players have been quite outspoken over this international break. Before we get to those comments, I mean, Mark Cucurella, interestingly, has really been quite outspoken on the departure of Enzo Maresca. What on earth do you think has gone on? Because you've lost your last 4 and you haven't even scored in your last 3 as well. And that's in all competitions, I should say. So what do you think's gone wrong?
No, I mean, look, in the short term, after the game, the win against Aston Villa, everything looked rosy, didn't it? It was a great win at a rival's place. Mm-hmm. And then you play PSG, and you're actually in Paris against the European champions, and for 70 minutes, you're more than in it. More than in it. You make the mistake, and I said this to Danny Kelly a couple of weeks ago, and Mark Cucurella has come out and said it as well. You make a mistake, but then the top teams lose 3-2. They don't lose 5-2. The teams that have the leaders in their ranks are able to game manage to say, okay, that was a mistake. We made a mistake there, but you know what? We're going to make sure it's not any worse. So you're 5-2 down. Newcastle game was really flat. And I thought, Wes Fofana in particular for the goal was just... poor. I mean, the two centre-halves far too away from each other, and then Fofana just switched off and allowed Anthony Gordon in behind him. So then you come into the game against PSG in the second leg, and one of your youngsters makes a mistake after 6 minutes. You're 4-0 down basically on aggregate. Mm-hmm. Now you've got no chance coming back against one of the best teams in Europe.
Yeah.
And the Everton game was really disappointing as well. It was almost like it's really difficult to combine Premier League and Champions League. So, yes, it's been really disappointing in the very short term. But the bigger picture is, and I said this on H&J today, they're lacking the leaders. Yes, they have some winners. And obviously, you've got the captain, who's Reece James, and he's a world-class player. He's arguably the best. I mean, Hakimi might argue, but he's arguably the best right-back in the world. But he's not really a leader. You got Enzo Fernandez, who's a World Cup winner. I'm not sure he's even fluent in English. Right. So how can he be a leader in the dressing room? You can certainly be, on the pitch. You can get hold of the ball, and he's a wonderful player. Mark Cucurella, I would argue he's probably the Premier League's best left back, certainly top 3. But with all due respect to left backs, and I was one of them, it's a left back. You need the key players, the leaders in key positions. And for me, then I hear people being very critical of Chelsea, and I understand why. These are incredibly intelligent, multi-billionaire businessmen who know what they're doing from a business point of view, but do they know what they're doing in terms of winning top titles? Or are the trophies that high up? Are they the number one priority for them? Or is it about we're hedge funders, we buy and sell, we trade, and then in 10 years' time, Chelsea could be sold for 4 or 5 times the amount that we've bought them for? Are you looking to win trophies in the here and now? And that's what happened under Roman Abramovich. The managers were given, he was ruthless, but they were given ready-made, world-class, senior pros, leaders on the pitch. And if it didn't happen, you're gone, and we'll bring the next manager in. Chelsea don't have enough of those.
I mean, it's apparent there's a disconnect there right now between everyone. Fans, I talked about some of the players have been quite outspoken after the exit from the Champions League. Enzo Maresca alluded to having to think about his future in the summer, for example. And Mark Cucurella, in this international break, speaking about Enzo Maresca. And if you're Liam Rossini and you're seeing this, I'm sure you're thinking, hello, that's not what I want to be reading, one of my players saying. But this is what he said. We knew that what Maresca wanted from us, winning a title like the Club World Cup, also helps, strengthens the bond, and you create great relationships during the celebrations. When a manager gives you that confidence and offers you a platform to fight for titles, you'll die for him, he said. The moment Maresca left, it had a big impact on us. These are decisions taken by the club. If you asked me, I would not have made this decision. To make a change like that, the best thing is to wait until the end of the season. I mean, that's hardly giving the thumbs up to Rossini.
Yeah, and from whatever you say about Enzo Maresca, and I thought he did a great job, actually. He was very popular with the players. I don't think it helps Cucurella saying that, but with what he sort of said about, the PSG game, make it 3-2, not 5-2. What Enzo Fernandez has said about he doesn't know where he's going to be next season.
Yeah.
Look, it's one thing for the fans to not be happy about it. It's another thing for ex-players like, I've spoken to John Terry about it. John Oben Mikel has said it on TalkSport. Joey Cole has said it as well about the lack of leaders. You can have players that are sort of mid-20s and they can have won things, but there's not enough of those players that have won things if you're going to win the Premier League and Champions League. But for current players to do it, that's a worry. That's
alarm bells, isn't it?
It's a big worry, and I think it's a big big summer for the owners and the hierarchy. And listen, again, I don't think they're a million miles away. I think if you get a goalkeeper, a centre-half and another striker to take the load off Joao Pedro. Remember, Didier Drogba and Nicolas Anelka didn't play together necessarily.
The Delap is not the answer.
Not at the moment, no. It was a £13 million no-brainer, but he's not the person to take Chelsea to winning a Champions League and a Premier League yet. Will he ever be? I don't know, but he's not ready yet. So, I mean, look, everyone gave Nicholas Jackson stick and they gave me stick for defending Nicholas Jackson. I think we talked about England, sometimes players can look better when they don't play. He's looked a better player by not being at Chelsea. But if they don't get the players in they need, not only are they not going to get those players in to go on and win the Premier League and possibly Champions League if they qualify for it, but they're going to lose the current good players that they have. And if they start doing that, and I know they're on 6 and 7 year contracts still left, but if your top players are saying, I don't want to play anymore, you have to find a way to sell them. And it's not about sort of, Enzo Fernandes was bought for over 100 million, so you have to sell him for 100 million. That's not how how it works in terms of balancing the books. Because for every year he's there, his worth goes down.
Yeah.
So actually, 60, 80 million probably makes it equal. And you could easily find someone like that. And Real Madrid, well, most South Americans want to live in Madrid and play for Real Madrid and play in Spain. So it's a big summer coming up. First of all, Liam has to make sure they finish in the top 5 in a Champions League place. And then secondly, recruitment has to be right.
And if they don't finish in the Champions League places, does Rosenior stay on?
They can't keep on doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
They can't keep on getting rid of managers and saying, well, we're going to go to the next manager. Who's the next one? Is it Gary O'Neill? Is it Strasbourg at the moment?
Yeah.
And then what happens after 6 months if things don't go well for him? They can't keep on doing that. They need to give the managers. I look at Mauricio Pochettino, and one thing I'd say about him, he's a charming guy. He can get on almost with anyone. And yet he clashed with the hierarchy. I look at Enzo Maresca, and he should have been absolutely pinching himself that he got offered the job of Chelsea head coach. And I think he did really well in last season, but he walked out. He walked out because he wasn't happy with the conditions. And Liam now has to look after himself to the point of he needs to go to the hierarchy at the end of the season and say, I played the players that you've brought in, and not just I'm telling you, but I'm showing you that half of these players aren't good enough to win Premier Leagues and Champions Leagues, or challenge for them anyway. Otherwise, he is going to fall away.
Very quickly, because I'm conscious of the time as well. As I mentioned, no, Chelsea is 6th. They're just a point off Liverpool in 5th. Can they finish in the Champions League places?
Can they? Absolutely. They're only a point off Liverpool.
Will they?
I have no idea. Honestly, I thought that was a big win for Villa just before the break. I really did. Manchester United and Mickey Carrick's done great there. And they haven't got any other games other than the Premier League and haven't had for some time. They're going to be okay. Big win for Villa. Looks like it's between Liverpool and Chelsea.
Yeah.
Genuinely, Liverpool are not in a good place and they've got Champions League to come as well. They might get knocked out against Manchester City, really struggle against PSG and then be tied off the back of that. It's 50-50. And for either of those sides, it would almost be unacceptable.
Well, as we mentioned already, Chelsea in action this weekend live on TalkSport as they host Port Vale in the FA Cup quarter-finals. It's a 5:15 kickoff. We're going to be there because we'll be bringing it to you live on TalkSport. But certainly, I'm sure Chelsea will look at it as a chance to put some confidence back into the team that has been lacking of late. You're tuning in to Kickoff on TalkSport with Ladbrokes, 18 and over, gambleaware.org.
Thomas Tuchel's thrown Foden's World Cup hopes into doubt with some comments that he made to the media, Gabby. Here's an interesting one. He was excellent in camp, but he struggles to show it on the pitch. He was so good in training, and I thought he will just surprise us. But yeah, he struggles to have the full impact. It was put to Tuchel that he could not take a struggling player to the World Cup. I can, he replied, but the question would be if we will. It's not a guarantee that he will come. Now, to be fair to Phil Foden, I think there's only about 5 or 6, well, maybe 5 or 6, but there'll be more, about a dozen guarantees.
Yeah.
But there'll be about maybe 6, 7, 8 that aren't guarantees. And I think Phil Foden has now come into that category, Gab. I mean, we've got to be concerned for him, don't you agree?
I think the problem for me, Ali, is that his form for Manchester City has been incredibly bad for Phil Foden. You know, he come on in the 90th minute, Ali, in the cup final against Arsenal. Got 0 minutes in both games against Real Madrid.
I know, mate.
In his last 11 games, Ali, he's only played a total of 183 minutes out of 990 available minutes. 0 goals this year. We're already in April, Ali.
Yeah.
And even for his country, Ali, he's not performed. He's only got 4 goals in 49 England caps. He should be at his peak now at 25. Never done it in an England shirt. And those comments from Thomas Tuchel, I look at them and I say, Thomas Tuchel likes you. He likes the career you've had. He likes you as a player. He's brought you into the squad, even though you didn't deserve to be in it from club form. And you look like, at the moment, it sounds like a training ground player.
This is Kickoff, and it's a pleasure to have you with us. It's Scott Minto and Natalie Sawyer with you right now. We're going to talk EFL, and just before we really get into it, ahead of a very, very busy Easter weekend, just to update you once more on what's happening in Leagues 1 and 2. Wigan hosting Leyton Orient in League 1. These two teams are outside of the relegation zone, but want to put more distance between themselves and the bottom 4, but still goalless in that one. And Cambridge still leads Swindon by a goal to nil. Ben Knight's goal, the difference in the first half between the two, and it's a goal that's moved Cambridge up to second in the table, so back into the automatic promotion places. Swindon remain in the playoff spots, so that's running you through the very latest in that. It's time for us to look at all the latest football action with Ladbrokes.
The big preview on TalkSport with Ladbrokes. Get a free bet every week of the season and a big boost every day. That's Ladisfaction. Minimum £5 bet. Conditions apply. 18 plus gambleaware.org.
So the EFL takes over this Easter weekend on TalkSport and TalkSport 2, and it starts tomorrow with Good Friday. 2nd versus 4th in the Championship. Middlesbrough taking on Millwall. That's a 12:30 kickoff. And promotion chasing Coventry host Derby, who are looking to get into the playoffs. That's under the lights at 8. Then on Easter Monday, it's a battle for survival at 12:30 as Portsmouth host Oxford. Ipswich taking on Birmingham. That's a 3 o'clock kickoff. Hull face Coventry at 8. So there's promotion, playoffs, survival. Every game matters, certainly. And TalkSport and TalkSport 2 exclusively brings you EFL commentary across this Easter weekend. Joining us to look ahead to it all then is our EFL expert, Simon Watts. Simon, good evening. How are you?
Evening. Very good, thank you. Very good.
As ever, when you have such a short turnaround with games, it feels like this could be a definitive sort of weekend for many of the teams fighting for whether it's promotion, playoffs, relegation spots.
Yeah, absolutely. 13 days without a match in the case of many of these teams with the international break. And then you get 2 games in 72 hours, which off the back of that, I think it's 5 games left for League 1 and League 2 clubs. Similar number for the Championship. And we're right on the home straight now, aren't we? And yeah, it's interesting how the fixture list has thrown up quite a lot of matches over the course of this weekend at both ends of the table in the Championship as well, where teams are up against each other in that promotion push and relegation battle as well. So yeah, really looking forward to it.
Yeah, let's go through a couple of them, Simon, then, shall we? I mean, massive clash live on TalkSport tomorrow in the race for automatic promotion between Middlesbrough and Millwall. I mean, Alex Neil, what a job he has done for us, talking about them possibly top 2, let alone top 6. But how do you see this one going?
I mean, he's been there and he's done it, hasn't he, at championship level? He's got teams promoted before, maybe on paper, not the kind of glamorous cosmopolitan manager that a lot of championship clubs like to go for these days, but I think he really fits that Millwall mould of just being no nonsense, hard working, and he's got them already into a position where they've actually got 3 points more on the board than they finished the whole of last season, and they only just fell short of the playoffs last year as well. So already they're better in their performances when he came in on the beginning of the new year last season as well. Look, they've got a couple of matches. They had their last game away at Ipswich. They drew 1-1 down at Portman Road. Josh Coburn, who they signed, their record signing from Middlesbrough, scoring the equaliser there in the summer. And then they got Middlesbrough this coming Friday. After that, you look at the fixture list, and if there is such a thing as a favourable fixture list, which there's not in the Championship, but if you do look at it after that, they've got a lot of teams that they would probably fancy themselves of beating. But the big thing that's probably kept Millwall out of the top 2 this season has been their record against the top 3. Of their 5 games so far, they haven't won a single one of them. Middlesbrough, however, on the other hand, they might be second in the table, but after Friday's games, Ipswich will have 2 games in hand on them because they don't play until Monday. And Middlesbrough's performances, particularly in the Riverside, have been pretty iffy recently. Draws against Oxford, Leicester, Bristol City, defeats against Charlton. They've dropped really, really valuable points in that battle for the top 2, which has effectively seen them lose their grip on the title. But they're really looking over their shoulder now. So it's going to be a game where they really need to keep Millwall at arm's length. But if Millwall can get a result up at the Riverside, no reason why they can't, then they are right in it.
It's kind of a question really of... Well, not a question even, it's when, not if, Coventry are going to go up. That's how it feels now, because after a little blip earlier on in this year, 2026, they kind of got back into winning ways, albeit that they lost their last home game to an informed Southampton. But they're taking on a Derby side who are only 3 points off the playoffs, Simon. And it's been quite a season for them when you consider last season they finished just, 1 point clear of the relegation zone.
It really is. And, they had a slow start to this season as well. I think even by mid-late October, they were still looking over their shoulders at the relegation places. But this is a meeting of 2 of the real informed teams in the Championship. You mentioned that defeat against Southampton, but aside from that, 7 wins in Coventry's last 8. But Derby have won 4 of their last 5 matches as well. Built very much on their home form, away from home. Haven't been quite as good. They won at Pompey in the middle of March, and that ended a 3-match losing run on the road. But what I like about this Derby County team is it's probably cost nowhere near what a lot of the other Championship teams have cost to put together. And it's that time of the year where the list of EFL agents' fees come out, and Derby would be literally 4th bottom in the table if you count on spending on agents' fees. So that kind of gives you a little bit of a barometer in this world that we live in now, where everything's undisclosed when it comes to transfer fees. But you look across their squad: Carlton Morris, Ben Brereton Diaz, Rhian Brewster, Sammy Schmodix. They've got Championship experienced oozing out of them. Patrick Adjaman, a real precocious striker as well. And, John Eustace was in midfield for Coventry when they were relegated from the Premier League back in 2001. It's his hometown club. Obviously went and had a good career as a player with Derby County as well. So going back to his old stomping ground as well, quite an interesting narrative. But I think, like you say, Natalie, the truth of the matter is, even if they lose this game tomorrow, even though fans might get the EPG, when you've got an 11-point gap over 3rd place in the table, it would be a spectacular fall from grace if Coventry weren't to make it over the line.
Yeah, it's a brilliant comeback, isn't it? 7 wins out of 8 after 2 wins in 8. So well done, Frank Lampard, so far. Anyway, look, let's look towards the bottom now then, Simon. We've seen reports that at least one club in the Championship has raised concerns over potential conflict of interest involving Northern Ireland and Blackburn manager Michael O'Neill. What have you made of this?
I find it really interesting. I support Oxford United, so I'll kind of put that out there and say that they're one of the teams who... from basically my knowledge, they were one of the teams, but I don't think they were the only team to make their feelings known to the EFL. Now, look, the managers have been quite cautious in their news conferences. John Mousinho at Pompey and Matt Bloomfield at Oxford in kind of treading around the subject. It's obviously been called nonsense by Michael O'Neill, the Blackburn manager. But it's just a really curious situation. And I actually, and John Mousinho made this point, sort of feel quite sorry for Michael O'Neill, being put into this position, I mean, he didn't have to say yes to the Blackburn job, obviously, but when you're in this dual managerial role, there's no two ways about it. Look, first of all, I'm absolutely sure that he didn't pick his team on Tuesday night based on who Blackburn are playing at the weekend and potentially weakening some of their relegation rivals. I don't think that's the case. But I do think there is a conflict of interest question to be managing a club and country at such a crucial stage of this season as well, because a manager can have a say on the minutes that players are playing on international duty, which other managers aren't afforded. They are privy to being around those players at this crucial stage of the season as well. As I say, I think from an integrity point of view, Michael O'Neill seems like a manager who's got a great deal of integrity. But I think that there's something that maybe beyond the EFL, but maybe FIFA rulings need to be looked at, because it doesn't quite sit right with me. And ultimately, if, say, Jamie Donnelly scored for Northern Ireland in midweek, breaks his leg in that game, playing for Michael O'Neill, just so happens to, that could hugely benefit Blackburn Rovers in the run-in if he misses Oxford United's last few games of the season. So it's a bit of a weird situation, isn't it? But I have noticed managers are a little bit touchy at the minute as well. We're at that stage of the season where so much is on the line. Going back to Alex Neil, heard him say earlier today that he wants all the promotion rivals to kick off at the same time as each other, because Millwall's next 4 games are all being played before their rivals, which, you could argue it could be beneficial if you get the points on the board. I've seen Frank Lampard complaining about the international break and how Joel Latibodia and Ephraim Mason-Clark have been away with Jamaica and only got back in the early hours of this morning ahead of this crucial run of fixtures, and they're important players for him as well. So I just think everyone's a bit tetchy at the moment, aren't they?
Yeah, very much so. But it's going to be a fascinating weekend, that is for sure. Simon, thank you for being with us this evening. That was all thanks to Ladbrokes.
The Big Preview on TalkSport with Ladbrokes. Get a free bet every week of the season and a big boost every day. That's Ladisfaction. Minimum £5 bet. Conditions apply. 18 plus gambleaware.org.
And just to say, tomorrow then on the TalkSport network, you can tune into Middlesbrough against Millwall. That's a 12:30 kickoff right here on TalkSport. We've got West Brom Wrexham. That's on TalkSport 2, a 3 o'clock kickoff. And then at 8 o'clock, we, as in myself and Scott Minto and Joe Shannon, will be bringing you Coventry against Derby, kicking off at 8 right here on TalkSport.
Well, some people will travel.
Okay, no need to bring that up. On the way next, we'll be discussing the EFL Building Foundations Fund and see how AFC Wimbledon are benefiting from that next.
All right, Cundy.
Hello, matey.
How are you?
I'm all right, thank you.
How you feeling?
I'm all right. I'm okay, yeah.
Gone well?
Yes, so for those that don't know, the hair transplant last Thursday.
Yep.
A couple of days off.
Yeah.
Back in today.
You're looking well, mate. You look well.
So far.
You look hard.
Well, well, the head's been shaved, right? So there's always got the image, haven't you? Like of a, bit of a thug.
Yeah, you look like you're going to be on like Football Factory or something.
Yeah, but look, it went well. It's such a weird process. I mean, you're in the chair for about 8.5 hours. It's all done.
I mean, that's hell for you, right? You can't.
Oh, mate. Well, they gave me. I fell asleep halfway through it. They gave me sedatives. Yes, I struggle to sit still, mate. But
struggle.
I struggle to sit.
Impossible.
Yes, but they're sedatives, mate. They work their magic. But here we go. So the beginning.
Mate, I like it.
Well, we'll see.
It's the new Cundy.
The new version.
The new version of.
New improved. Don't know about that.
It looks all right, mate. I'm happy with it.
Yeah, well, look, big shout out to the Wimpole Clinic. Thank you very much for what they did. And we'll see the results, mate, over the next coming 3, 4, 5, 6 months.
You've got to have a haircut, mate. What's the haircut look? What's the trim? You
Don't know.
Quiff?
Don't know what I'm going to go for, mate.
You look all right with the old
Listen, I'm not having a hair transplant and then looking like this.
No?
I'm not. No, you don't have a hair transplant and shave
It's
your head.
all right, though.
Well, for the time being, I've got no choice. I've got no choice. This is how it's going to be. All right, so there you go.
You're making me die.
Yeah, it's a bit. I mean, did it hurt? Obviously.
The TalkSport 20k giveaway.
Yes, we're giving you the chance to win a life-changing £20,000. It's completely tax-free, and that is quite an incredible amount of money to get, I must say, straight into your bank account. You can do whatever you want with it as well. Of course you can. It's entirely up to you how you spend it. Here's how you can enter, so please get a pen and paper handy for this one. You can simply text the word WIN to 83338. So that's text the word WIN to 83338. Text costs £2.50 plus your standard network rate. Or you can call this number 0343 418 7260. That's 0343 418 7260. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 9th of April, and that's when you'll need to answer your phone if it rings. It's for 18s and over, UK residents only. It's a network promotion. Full T's and C's can be found at talksport.com. And just a reminder, to win £20,000, you can simply text the word WIN to 83338. Now, good luck. So we just chatted about the EFL taking centre stage then this weekend, and it gives us a chance to chat about the Sky Bet EFL Building Foundations Fund and the benefits it has for the 72 league clubs. Launched in 2023, the now £6 million initiative allows club charities to bid for grants up to £100,000 for local community-based programmes. So that can be improving local sporting facilities or promoting social benefits through football. One of the successful clubs are AFC Wimbledon. Pleased to say joining us this evening to discuss it more is the club's chairman, Mick Buckley. Mick, good evening. How are you doing? Oh,
I'm good.
Oh, there we go. So tell us then about the fund and how you are using it at AFC Wimbledon.
Yeah, so our foundation noted the EFL Building Foundations Fund and had a number of projects in mind, and was attracted by the fact that, you know, the fund was trying to drive participation, tackle isolation, and bring communities together. And those are three things that are very important to us at AFC Wimbledon. So, you know, we really appreciate the fund is a collaboration between the EFL and Sky Bet. We appreciate that we are the recipients of this money, and we intend to put it to really good use.
Yeah, I mean, I can well imagine, and getting up to £100,000 that all the clubs can get through this fund is, I mean, it's pretty life-changing in itself. So how important would you say AFC Wimbledon's foundation is to the community? And you can broaden that out, I guess, to all communities and charities associated with their relevant clubs.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, you would perceive that the good people of Wimbledon don't need too much support. You know, Wimbledon is well known as being an area that's doing okay for itself. But what a lot of people don't realise that, you know, parts of Wandsworth and East Merton, which are both very adjacent to our stadium, you know, really suffer quite high levels of social deprivation. So our foundation interfaces with about 11,000 people a year, using kind of sport as a catalyst, if you like, to really bring those people together, bring them out of isolation, get them participating, and just enriching their lives. We and you're quite right. You know, we would like to be the best community club in London, but it's a really tough competition. Lots and lots of clubs in London are doing brilliant work through their foundations. So sport is really for good in that sense.
Well, that's actually what I was going to come to, because you're right. I mean, there are so many communities and charities aligned with football clubs, but it just goes to show how important sport can be used to help people socially.
No, absolutely. So we are going to, with this money, we're going to kind of create a community health and well-being hub. And, our vision is we're going to do three things with that. The first thing is we're going to create a fantastic gym where people who are living with things like Parkinson's or MS or are recovering from serious illness will be able to come along and get really high-level professional support specific to their needs. So we're partnering with St. George's Hospital, with primary care trusts, with a great organisation called Neuro Heroes. And they are going to help us really deliver something very valuable to those people. The other thing that's going to happen in there is we're going to create an amazing meeting space where we're going to get all of our community in. We're going to do well-being workshops. We're going to do education workshops, and we're just going to get people connected with each other, which we think is really important where our stadium is located. And then the third thing we're going to do is work with younger adults, 18 to 30-year-old adults who are not in employment, in training or education, and mentor them, one-to-one mentor them to develop their skills and resilience, so that they can really achieve on their potential. Brilliant. So that's what we're going to do with this money. We're very appreciative to get it from the fund, and we're very excited about it.
Brilliant.
Yeah, so you should be, Mick, as well. And brilliant work. I know that lots of clubs, as you say, not just around London, around the whole country. I know Charlton, for example, the community trust there is one of the best in the country, and the job that they do around the community is just incredible. So it's fantastic news. But if you don't mind, I'd like to talk about matters on the pitch. And, I mean, look, in terms of your budget and the amazing journey you've been on, of course, over the last few years, to be in League One, to be kind of mid-table in League One. Do you feel you're safe, by the way? First and foremost, you're 8 points above that dotted line. But how good a job has Johnny done, Johnny Jackson?
No, he's done an amazing job. I mean, you put your finger on it. We're one of the two community-owned clubs in the country, so we don't have a sugar daddy, if you like, to write the big checks. League One finances have just really run away with themselves. I think we're competing with clubs on average losing £6 million a year. We just can't do that. So. Johnny did an amazing job with his staff to get us out of League Two. The goal for this season was to consolidate in League One, and we're making really, really solid progress on that. We're not mathematically there yet, but we're performing very well, and him and his staff have done a great job, as has Craig Cope, our director of football, who works in partnership with him.
Yeah, I mean, how difficult is it just to stand still, as it were, to stay in League One? Because obviously you have gone up to League One before, gone back down. Johnny's got you back up again, but it's getting harder and harder as, we talk about the Premier League and the Championship, but in League One as well, when you talk about the budget and you haven't got that sugar daddy, just to be a League One side is an incredible achievement, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a great achievement. So the last time we got promoted, we spent 6 years in League One, which was really, really helpful in enabling us to build our stadium. It was easier getting that done as a League One club than it would have been in League Two, for lots of reasons. So if you look at the data, it would suggest it's very difficult to stay in League One once you get promoted from League Two. So, we brought momentum. We had a plan for this season. We retained the team that got us promoted by and large. We strengthened in one or two areas. And we were very definite about how we wanted to play, and it's being executed very well. As I say, the job is not completely done yet, but we're making very good progress. And next year we're going to have to go again. We are doing everything we can as a club to build up our finances. So we're now in our, I think, 6th season in our new stadium. and we're really kind of now understanding how to generate more revenue from the stadium, which is very helpful because it all kind of goes into the budget. So no, Scott, you're quite right. It is extremely tough, but you know, AFC Wimbledon has overcome many challenges in the last 24 years, and we just kind of stick together and go again, and we get expert people. And they understand what success looks like, and then we all go for it.
Mick, it's been a real pleasure to have you on. Thank you for joining us, and well done on that EFL fund as well.
Yeah, thanks. Really appreciate it, guys. Take care.
And good luck tomorrow.
Yes,
Easy game. Lincoln away.
I didn't want to remind Mick of that. Yeah, not the easiest, but best of luck for the rest of the season as well.
Fingers crossed.
Mick,
Okay.
yes. AFC Wimbledon heading up to the league leaders, Lincoln. But when you look at League One, it still amazes me, the teams that are in there, when you consider some of the Premier League sort of pedigree, if you like, when you've got Cardiff, Bolton, Bradford, Reading. I'm just going down it. Huddersfield, Luton have been there, of course. Barnsley, Wigan, who, by the way, have drawn that game with Leyton Orient, finished goalless between the two teams. And then you think about the potential of the teams coming down from the Championship. You've got Leicester in there.
Yeah,
which would
West Brom are still in.
West Brom are in this fight too. I mean, it's just going to get tougher and tougher. That league.
I mean, even Sheffield Wednesday, it's a massive club, isn't it? And you look at. I mean, look, maybe I'm being slightly biased here. I think the stats will show from a maths point of view and money point of view, we have the best league, Premier League. I think quite clearly we have the best tier 2, 3, 4, 5, and maybe even going on onwards when you look at the attendances as well. It's incredible.
Absolutely. It's brilliant. The competitive nature of it all is absolutely fantastic. So yes, AFC Wimbledon heading to Lincoln on what is Good Friday, where there is a whole host of EFL football coming your way across the TalkSport network. And all of the 3 o'clock kickoffs, by the way, will keep you up to date on Game Day Live with Adrian Durham and our reporters up and down the land. I mentioned that Wigan Leyton Orient game. That one finished goalless in League One, and Cambridge is still 1-0 up against Swindon. They're into the 85th minute in that one. Both these two teams vying for promotion, and it's a goal that puts Cambridge second in the table. Okay, on the way next. Yes, there's loads of EFL football this Easter weekend, but there's also the FA Cup quarter-finals. We'll get ahead to that next.
What about Mo Salah? With Saudi in mind, is he now the most eligible free agent around?
It's a strange one because Saudi sources sense that MLS are going to make a big push, and MLS sources think he's nailed on to go to Saudi Arabia. And as a free agent, of course, there might be European interest. I'm told that reports linking him with a move to PSG are wide of the mark. They're past that Galacticos era within MLS. A fair few teams have ruled themselves out, such as San Diego, for example, and New York City FC. But there will be franchises in MLS exploring that deal. Some think that Chicago might enter the fray, and others believe that one of the two clubs in Los Angeles will be interested within Saudi Arabia. We know the clubs themselves would love to be able to sign Salah, particularly Al Qadsiya, where Brendan Rodgers is manager, Al Ittihad and Al Hilal. Neom FC could enter the picture as well. But the strange thing I'm hearing in Saudi, Jim, is that the clubs would love him. They've got to be able to finance it. They're reliant on central funding, and central deal makers are still actually debating, is there value in signing Salah at his age and at his wage? Last summer, they would have done it. because they were negotiating the TV rights and they thought that they could sign Salah and get a really lucrative deal in Egypt. Now the central deal makers in Saudi are less sure whether he's still going to be the poster boy and have a return on investment. So the clubs are all in on Salah in Saudi, but some senior central figures still, I'm told, need some convincing.
Matter who you are, if you reach an FA Cup quarter-final, you start thinking about Wembley. Here's Mamouche, first time shot, brilliant goal! Omar Mamouche! Szoboszlai in on goal, hits it! Oh, what a goal! Salah shielding it back for Neto, through the goalkeeper for 4. Wayne has scored! He's done it again in the FA Cup! It's Port Vale, bottom of League One, leading Sunderland! He takes a long run up, Stewart, the goalkeeper goes the right way, but he can't keep it out! And Southampton are heading to the FA Cup quarter-finals. Latest Arsenal corner flicked on again, and it's in again. It's a Gabriel Martinelli hat-trick. Konstantinos Mavropanos steps up, right-footed, and it's a brilliant penalty into the corner. And West Ham United are through to the FA Cup quarter-finals for the first time in a decade. For the goal, and Pirlo finally scores for Leeds United. This truly is FA Cup magic.
Yes, not only do we have a whole feast of EFL action, there is the FA Cup quarterfinals to look forward to this weekend. Just to run you through the lineup then. It all gets underway on Saturday with Manchester City taking on Liverpool. That is then followed by Chelsea against Port Vale. And then Saturday's lineup is completed with Southampton taking on Arsenal before the final game is played on Sunday, which sees West Ham host Leeds. I guess my question to you, when I've mentioned all those teams involved, who do you think the FA Cup is most important to now this season?
Ooh, that's a hell of a question. I think Chelsea could do with winning it the way they are. I think Liverpool could do with winning it the way they are.
Yeah.
I think there's a little bit of pressure off Manchester City. I don't think, with Arsenal, even though they've lost the Carabao Cup, the Premier League and the Champions League are the priorities. So the FA Cup comes third. But that's not going to be an easy game for Arsenal. I was at Craven Cottage where Thunder Eckert made some changes, and yet Southampton still look very, very well organised. And whenever you come off the back of an international break, and we know that Arsenal have a lot of injuries, don't they? Are they?
11.
A lot of injuries.
Yes.
How many of those will be ready to play in that game? I mean, will he risk any of them? Will he think that this is a championship side, so we should go and win this game? Well, if he does, and I'm sure he won't, Mikel Arteta, then he might get bit on the backside, shall we say. It was a very difficult game for them in the last round. I think Southampton are in great form. There's question marks how Eckert actually, whether he wants to put a full side out, because they've got a big game coming up on Tuesday against Wrexham. So it's all about, one, who's fit off the back of an international break, and two, how much importance do you put on it? But I would say at this moment in time, if Liverpool or Chelsea are to finish outside the top 5 places, I think they've got to come away this season with something.
I imagine the 11 players who withdrew from their international nations might not be involved in this one. Don't necessarily have to be involved, do they? When you consider what they also have to look ahead to when they've got the Champions League coming up this week, with Arsenal heading to Sporting, and then there's Bournemouth at home in the Premier League at the weekend as well, the following weekend, that is. So, you can imagine. Isn't that why they have this squad depth now? That they can field another 11, and it's maybe not going to impact them as much. But you're right to mention Southampton and what a turnaround it's been for them with Tonda Eka. I mean, probably they are the informed team in the Championship, unbeaten in 14. They've really gone on this incredible surge to now get themselves into playoff contention. And being at home, there's all these things that you can bring into the equation that doesn't make it a foregone conclusion for Arsenal, who were tested at Mansfield, weren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look at Man City are probably favourites to beat Liverpool, but it wouldn't be a shock if Liverpool were to win. West Ham apparently are favourites against Leeds, but it wouldn't be a shock if Leeds were to get a win. And obviously, that's the last game of the season as well, where West Ham and Leeds, certainly Leeds, the way they are at the moment, will be hoping that they're safe by then. Chelsea should beat, my goodness me, they should beat Port Vale. I mean, with respect, Port Vale, rock bottom of League One, going down to League Two. Chelsea playing at home. They needed that reset after what was a really poor few weeks for Liam Rosenior and his side. So this is the one where you sort of think, absolutely eyebrows would be raised. And if the players aren't up for it, then, you're right. They're one of, if not the form side in the Championship. I want to see Max Dowman play. I wanted to see him come off the bench against Manchester City in the Carabao Cup final. This kid is still playing with his mates at school, and the way he came off the bench.
He's Easter holidays right now.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah, he's still studying for his GCSEs though, isn't he?
I think so.
I know my girl is at the moment, or should be. But the way he came off the bench against Everton. And just change the game with his crossing and the goal itself. And he's playing with no fear. And I understand how Mikel Arteta is kind of holding him back. I don't think he should have done in the Carabao Cup final. I think he was one of those players who wasn't overawed or in a bad moment, would have just gone on, I think would have done something special to have got Arsenal back into the game.
It's funny you say that. Just as you're saying that, I'm talking about the entertainment beforehand of football.
Yeah.
He feels like he can bring that in a moment. And maybe it is just because of that Everton goal.
No. We are, and we need to be careful how we talk about this kid. And he is still a kid, and he is still at school technically. But the talent is world class. The potential is world class. He's up there in terms of pure potential of Lamine Yamal, and that's the biggest compliment I can give him. Now, he's got a very strong family unit and he'll be looked after. I think he's at a great place at Arsenal and with Mikel Arteta. But there's also sometimes you think, just let him off the leash. And I thought that should have happened in the Carabao Cup. It'd be interesting to see whether he starts in this particular game. I think it's a great stadium. The pitch would be fine. These would be the type of games that you can put him in. And I'd love to see him play, because when I watch him, it's like, oh my goodness me, if he can fulfil his potential, then we've got an absolute superstar on our hands for club and country.
Yeah. Our Arsenal fan producer is saying he'll get minutes. Minutes.
But he starts. He won't start.
He's shaking his head. He's not sure. He's not sure. But even just to see him play, it's exciting, and we look forward to seeing that, certainly. They haven't reached the quarterfinals since last winning the competition. This is Arsenal in 2020, but they have gone on to win the tournament on each of the last 4 occasions they've reached the semi-finals. You mentioned Liverpool. This has been, by their own standards, a real downgrade of a season. And yes, you could bring in mitigating factors of what happened last summer, of course. With Diogo Jota. But do you feel that this is vitally important for Arne Slot?
Listen, I love the FA Cup, and not actually because I was very fortunate to have played for Chelsea in 1997, but actually I grew up in the 70s and 80s where it was the one game where everybody watched, and it wasn't just the game, it was the whole day. Of course it was. Even your mum would come in with tea and toast and she'd sit down, watch 5 minutes, get bored, but at least you'd sit down for 5 minutes. And the programme's on beforehand. It's just, there's no doubt about it, because of the strength of the Premier League, it has lost a little bit of its sort of superstardom, but I think it's a wonderful tournament, and I would actually give it, instead of the 4th place in the Champions League, I would give the winners of the FA Cup getting into the Champions League. Having said all that, the most important thing for both Liverpool and Chelsea is to make sure they finish in the Champions League place.
So this was going to be my question then. You can only pick one: Chelsea winning the FA Cup or finishing in the Champions League places.
That is a really good question, and I can't believe you're out of order. for asking me that question.
It's the best way to finish.
Aren't we about to go off air?
Yeah, but you still need to answer it.
Okay. Chelsea have to be in the Champions League.
Okay.
They have to. But you know, medals, you only get a few at the end of
For
your
players,
career
yeah.
to look back. And the Chelsea fans, despite all the glory years of winning the Champions League and the Premier League and the Club World Cup, the FA Cup is still very, very special for them.
So your answer is what?
We're about to go.
All right.
It's got to be Champions League.
Okay. All right.
Can't believe I said that.
Let's see you say that at the Bridge on Saturday when we're live. By the way, very, very quickly, Swindon have equalised late on. It's an own goal as well, unfortunately, for Cambridge. James Gibbons scoring that one. So it's 1-1. It's just finished as well. It does mean, just looking at it, I think Cambridge stay where they are. Is that right? No, yes, fourth potentially. Swindon fifth as well. So a blow for Cambridge. No, I tell a lie. This table I'm looking at just keeps changing. They are third. They are in the automatic promotion places, but it's only goal difference that keeps them in that spot. So a blow for them when you consider, of course, Notts County, the team below them, still have to play this Good Friday, no doubt. Right, that is it for us this Thursday evening. I will be speaking to you tomorrow.
Thank you, Cluffy.
Bring us commentary against Derby, and I'll see you at the Bridge. You've been listening to Kickoff on TalkSport with Ladbrokes. It's 18 and over, gambleaware.org. Up next, it's the Sports Bar. It's Jamie O'Hara and Jason Cundy on the way next.